Hello and welcome to episode 216 of the FReality Podcast. It's the first podcast of the new year. And after last episode's 3-hour runtime, that's nearly Avatar 2 length, we're going to take this podcast on a duration diet. Okay, it's been a downpour of new devices this past couple weeks, and we're going to cover hands-on impressions in today's show, thanks to both Adam and Jose, who are out in the desert experimenting with many of those geeky gadgets. Today's topics, here we go. Meta's written a nice little eulogy for Quest 1. Intel's getting speedy with sub 5 millisecond latency to headset. The Wave is back, but absconded off to PICO. Sony's showcase gave us a big name IP and a new accessibility controller. But mind your wallets, as CES was chock full of new expensive equipment, including PSVR2, PiMax Crystal, AjnaXR VIVE XR Elite. None of it is cheap. And finally, Jose will round us up with releases and help sweeten the tea of those hungry for software. If you're here with us today in chat, tell us what you've been tinkering with, modding, setting up, or just playing since the last show. And allow me a moment to introduce the FReality crew. First up, dodgy tech deals go down in dark alleyways of Las Vegas. But if you're willing to risk 10 to 20 years in the block, man, the goods you can get. The VR Tech is here to tell us all about it. Go on, Jose. It's confession time.
Yo, what's up, you guys? Oh, man, first confession. This is not going to be a short podcast. Get ready for a 5. I'm just kidding, guys. No, man. Super pumped up. I'm back from Vegas. I was supposed to be in Miami, but now I'm in California. So I'm like, I'm playing, I'm putting Carmen Sandiego run for her money. So I'm definitely getting into world traveling mode, going and visiting as much and learning as much VR as I possibly can.
Was that rebooted? I don't know if today's kids know Carmen Sandiego, because I definitely do.
I am the actual reboot, so I'm actually taking on the role. I don't know, actually. I think it did get rebooted actually a few years ago. Netflix, I think, did do a reboot. So I'm hopefully people know and catch the reference of what I'm talking about, or else I'm gonna look like a big old nerd.
Oldie.
But
you always look like a big old nerd. I'm sorry to
exactly
bring it to you.
right. So I'm filling in the role. It's a real Carmen Sandiego reboot. I'm the greedy reboot.
I'd watch that show.
Let's do it.
Absolutely would. Very good. What's been your other than picking up all your things and moving literally moving to California since the last podcast? Any highlights in that maybe aren't CES related?
They are not CES related.
That's a difficult filter.
I would have to say the enthusiasm for VR. Traveling with the Quest Pro carrying case that looks exactly the same as the Quest 2 carrying case. I didn't realize how the shape of the carrying case has become iconic. People knew it was a headset. People were like, "Oh, is that a Quest? Is that a Quest? Is that a Quest?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is actually," which was very cool. People, just mainstream people, a lot of random, people in the public just asking me about it was very cool, very exciting. So I'm feeling very refreshed when it comes to being a part of the VR space. So that's definitely stuck with me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. And so was it people who were asking this? Was this just random strangers walking up to you in an airport?
Very random strangers. People in line at the TSA behind me. I realized I was actually standing in line and I saw these kids going like, "It's a headset. It's a headset. It's a VR headset." And it was just so cool. And just hearing that is like, man, I never realized how the oval shape with the little strap has become iconic. So it's really cool how we're kind of seeing the form factors, the kind of just knowing who is a VR user. It's super rad.
Yeah. And I like the excitement as well. When you run across strangers excited about it, it somehow elevates your own levels of excitement and it just builds on it.
It's validating too.
And that'll keep you going for weeks. Yeah.
And it's so fun when it's not in the places you expect it to be, right? Nobody's expected to recognize a headset. You're just waiting in line somewhere, holding on to it. So it's super cool. Especially in Vegas. That was actually very fun. It's kind of is not CS related because it was outside of CES. But, when you're traveling, going to demos and meetings, you're kind of holding onto your equipment. So walking with my headset around, you would see the people knew what it was. You see that energy. It's super fun.
Well, that's a good way to start off the new year, I'd say, Jose. Thank you very much. That's great. All right, on to our next one. So, from guitars to conical flasks, Alzheimer's patients to robots that loop time fast, this guy's got it going on from dusk till dawn. He doesn't stop ticking. Breaking from jail or getting a speeding ticket, hide your kids and hide your wife. It's Rowdy. Hey, Rowdy.
Hello. Hello there.
Just off of a flight and everything.
Yeah,
Jesus.
exactly. Like I'm absolutely exhausted. Like Jose just leaves to California, and that's I was like, we can't have that. We need to have like at least one member of FReality in Miami. So I was like, just headed that way, and I just do my thing there. No, the reason why I went to Miami was indeed for like an Alzheimer conference. We had it happens every year. It's a pretty big conference in the field at least, and it was actually really nice. It was my first time in Miami. I didn't get to see anything of Miami, but you guys apparently have very nice weather there. I didn't notice that either because the AC was full on, so it was absolutely freezing inside. Everybody was complaining about it. It's always a thing, like when you go to like some place hot, you go to a conference, you arrive at the thing started like 7 a.m. so like it's like still like it's still light, but it's like it's not like full blast on sun. You go inside and you just feel the chill, and then by the time that the conference is over, it's like dark outside, and you're absolutely exhausted. So you don't really get to do much stuff. I was thinking about staying a few days extra, but then we couldn't do the podcast. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No, we can't do that to our listeners.
Took one for the team yet again.
Exactly.
Yet again. Oh, well, I'm glad you made it back in time anyway. That's great. It's amazing how international, I swear, the jet miles that we're racking up, since we reformed as the second version of the crew, there's been a lot of miles put under, and I haven't done a single one yet. So I'm hoping to do something at some point.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to get that done. All right, next one up. Well, I've watched enough horror films to know that if you feel safe around this gal, nope, something's definitely up. But you won't know until it's too late. Your end will involve a hotel room, an invitation to some strangely enticing demo, and then you'll never be heard from again. It's Adam Bombardi. There you go.
That sounds about accurate.
From the pictures we've been getting. Yeah, how you doing, Adam?
So without doing any CES spoilers, most of my week has been relatively boring and catching up with work stuff or coming back from work break. But I think say like Las Vegas related stuff that I did, non-CES related, hopefully. A couple of VR people, we went to Area 15, which is sort of like how do you describe it? It's like it's a super trippy psychedelic area that's got arcades in it. They've got like a VR arcade. They've got a bar, but it's almost like a adult mall with games and lights.
I just have to say, I thought for a moment you had the letter switched. So the numbers switched. So you had like Area 15. I was like, Area 51. It's like,
that's how they keep them out.
I was like, wait a minute.
That's how they trick the people.
Yeah, so then we get in trouble with the government. But they have a place in there that's called the Omega Mart, which is kind of like it looks like a normal grocery store on the outside, but once you go in, there's actually a whole storyline. Like if you love backrooms stuff, that's kind of what this is. There's like little weird glitches in the Matrix, and there's like, and I'm not gonna give too many spoilers because you really should go experience it for yourself. But I went inside a fireplace and climbed up it and went to another part of it's trippy. It's really cool. There's a whole storyline behind it.
Wait, it's a grocery store that's also a kind of pseudo escape room. I'm trying to understand what you're.
It's more of an experience.
What you're trying to portray here.
So it's not an escape room in that you have a time limit. You go in and you have to discover basically what happened to the CEO of this store. But as you're discovering that, you're also realizing like, oh, this isn't a normal store. There's like. Without spoiling it, there's science-y stuff that has happened and is happening here. And so as you go through, there's like letters you can find in mailboxes. There's computers around that you can go in and like read emails or watch videos.
But you can't get, for example, like a carton of milk.
Yeah, it was like, do you go there for actual food or?
You know what? They actually sell, like it's not actual like food, but they'll sell fake products that have price tags on it that you can buy if you wanted to.
It's merch.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's like their merch because it's so weird. Like there's one, I think like a butter carton. This is it's not butter or something on it. It's just weird stuff. Or
Wow.
That sounds cool.
Really
Yeah.
eclectic then.
Really.
But like so Area 15 is more mall sized, it's larger, like a shopping center, and then this is a piece of that?
Yeah, it's inside of it. So it's like one of the stores, I would call it.
It's an
Because they
interactive
also-
museum.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have little other areas in there that are like sort of interactive museum like. You'll see trippy stuff. Probably should maybe be on edibles when you go in there, and you probably get a really good time. Maybe next time. But it's
Meow Wolf. He actually, so the guy who created it, Adam Meow Wolf, he actually has. It's a design firm now. As possible, they employs all their actors. It's super exciting. It's LBE
really
to the max. It is. It's
Wow, that
it's
sounds
pretty much
awesome, yeah.
technology and performers just in perfect unison.
And so how does that work just from like going on the ride, so to speak? Are you paying entry to Area 15 or to this individual shop? Like is it ticketed?
To Area 15, you don't have to pay technically to go in. There's like experience packages that you can buy, but Omega Mart is separate. So you could just walk into Area 15, show them your ticket for Omega Mart, and then you get as long as you want, pretty much. And I will say you probably want to spend at least a minimum half a day to discover all of the.
Really, it's that big.
It's
Let's
big.
clarify. Wow. Let's clarify that though. The area, I think on Surge is like if it's a busy like spring break and summer, they do charge to get inside Area 15. I think they had it. They weren't charging this time because at CES and they wanted people to try it. But I have been there like 7 times now, and they definitely charge like in Surge. In like Surge weekends and stuff like that. They're smart. Yeah, they'll definitely. I thought that too once, and I showed up with like 7 people, and they were like, "Oh no, we charge. It's Saturday." I was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
It's Saturday.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. Tough when you're traveling with a big group like that. But Adam, that sounds like a really cool eclectic shout out. Thank you for mentioning it. I'm certainly drawing my bucket list now of things because I've never been to Las Vegas. So,
it's so rad.
That'll be on the list of must do. Very good. Well, I'm curious what chat have been up to this week. So, team, let me know if you see anything there in chat. And,
Yes.
welcome to
we've
the
got
podcast, everyone.
Weekly Synth Riders gathering. We've got Walking Dead Saints and Sinners finally, like the first one? Question mark. Is that what I got finally? But that's good. You know,
Shaming
never
them.
too late. Well, I thought it was the second one at first, and then I was like, "Oh, good for you! I haven't had to
Play more games."
And then Windlands 2, Steam Deck indies. Cool. Grinding in Zenith for the extended winter event. That makes me sad when like all the games that still have winter events or just launch like Christmas events. I'm like, why? Christmas is over. Stop it.
Someone who loves it so
Sad.
much, you really are like dead cut when it's over, right?
Well,
It's like-
yes, because if it's any longer or any sooner before, then I won't enjoy it anymore because it's too much, you know? So I like to have those limits. Otherwise, I don't want to get overexposed and just be over it. Like, I know my limits.
When do the lights come down? What day of January do the lights come down in Adam's house?
Probably right after New Year's. Honestly, I would like it after Christmas, but it's usually after New Year's because we end up getting lazy and we're like, it's probably a tolerable time.
Mine is still up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, I've got neighbors who have the whole shebang still up and
Really?
going every night. Like, yeah.
That's just lazy.
I'm sitting next to a Christmas. Excuse me.
Yeah. No take back.
Wait. No, but we've got snow here. I don't know, Montreal. Well, Rowdy, do you have
Yeah,
snow?
we had a snowstorm. I think about 30 to 40 centimeters fell out of the sky over the past 2 days. So yeah, we have a heck ton of snow here at the moment.
Yeah, that's what we're enjoying as well. It's like go out with the dog. You got to put on your thermal layers and stuff like that. So I enjoy it though. I like this time of year. It's certainly nice to have snow blanketed around, some Christmas lights around. As Adam's twitching there, you know. But I do think that like if you're pushing past mid-January with your Christmas lights, and definitely end of January, that's pushing it a bit far. You know, even if you're in a wintry place where taking them down isn't so easy. Very good. Well, chat, thanks. Sounds like you guys have been busy. I'll give you my highlight now before we move on. I had a really strong hankering when we were getting into December for like catching up, because I started to get smitten with PS5 in a way that I haven't gotten into console gaming in a very long time. Like when I was a kid, I started off on consoles, like the Nintendo consoles and stuff, and then eventually found like StarCraft and Quake 2, and that like fish hooked me into PC gaming, and I was like, haha, I'm a PC gamer now. Screw you, console gamers. But I feel like, you know, some handhelds like the Nintendo DS, which is one of the main reasons I met my wife, and then later, like the PS5 has been a beautiful console for catching up. But I'm trying to get ready for PSVR2, and so I got into Horizon not really knowing much other than, okay, female protagonist, colorful family, and the corporate job and all that. And then when I was doing that, I was kind of lamenting. I was like, oh, it's a pity they didn't make, you know, like a third-person VR mod, because I'd play that. Because I'd seen some people do first-person content, and then some of the people in the VR community, like, you know, they said, they're like, hey, like German Rifter and a few others, they're like, no, it works well. German Rifter, Eric Hartley, a few of them, and you know, they're trusted opinions, and so I was like, all right, I'll try it out. And then I ended up putting like, you know, about 8 hours into Horizon Zero Dawn's VR version, and being in that world, which again is like gorgeous landscape, another place that you could VR vacation. And then the combat system still being, you're still using the gamepad, right? So it's kind of like Rift gaming was. And it's seated. I'm not standing while I'm doing this. But the benefit that I was able to do was I engineered that the sound would go through my shaker chair. So I've got two different bass shakers rumbling this chair away with all these thundering dinosaurs, mechanical dinosaurs around. Man, it was, it's been really special. Like, it's not that often that a game really catches me, but now I'm in very much two minds about what's to come, and I can't wait till we get into your impressions about the demos you've done with the new VR variant of Horizon. But like, keeping the same fast-paced combat, being able to switch between third and first person, even though it was seated VR, really had a good time. Really did. But I'm going to complete my play experiences, I think. Maybe hold off on Forbidden West until after the VR bit, maybe. I don't know. It's still in a pricey game, so I might just hold out. But the stories, the characters, I know, Rowdy, you were saying to me a little bit earlier that you hadn't played Horizon, but if you're into that kind of world, the story is really good. The characters are amazing in it. And they're not just the same placeholder NPCs that you have in like every game. A lot of them are really quite eccentric, and they're fun for that reason. And they're not eccentric to the annoying side like a Jar Jar Binks character. It's just the technology interfolds of that story are fantastic. And as you explore and discover stuff, it's like opening a novel and not wanting to put it down. So yeah, I'll recommend to anyone who hasn't caught up with Horizon. I'd never played any in the series, and now I'm completely bought in to that good as a story.
And like you said, the combat is really good. Like having to, we don't have to, but to break off individual parts from the machines. It's like one of those things that's like frustratingly challenging, but really satisfying when you get to pull it off. Yeah, I love it. I love the Horizon game.
And not just the mechanics, story-wise too, right? Like I know exactly what you're talking about, Zim. Like the first 15 minutes of that game like hooked me. Like I love.
And as a character, who's not too different than you, Adam, I'd say. You know, like she's a brazen lass. Like she really is. She's like, no, Dad, I'm going to do it my way. And I'm not going to spoil any of the story, but oh man, my wife and I both fell in love with this girl. Like it's like to play that character and then interact with all these characters along her kind of journey. Yeah. Oh, yeah, smitten. That's the only thing I can say. It was really great. Just to have someone be like such a bold standout character. So if you're looking for a real character-driven story, absolutely take my recommendation.
Misi will Horizon. Give it a try.
Get out.
Next Halloween, we see Rowdy in his Jar Jar outfit. Oh, very good. All right. Well, before we get into the news cycle, let's go on to a word from this podcast sponsor, which is Resolution Games. So we've just crossed over. Maybe now is the safest time for me to say, but asking you what your resolution of the year is. I mean, we've talked about this, and our audience has listened for now a couple of weeks. So my question is, have you followed through yet? You know, jumping on Demio, pew pew and blast on, or maybe just hanging out in the lagoon with friends or families in bait. Resolution had something for everyone in this December's first ever Resolution Games Showcase. I'll mention that Blast On has gone free to play. They released the pass-through game called Spatial Ops, and Bait went multiplayer as well. So this is your final reminder from us, right? Go check out the high pedigree games from Resolution. Get swept up by VR gaming's most fun studio and take our word for it. You know, you can check out the goods in Akron, Blast On, Cookout, Demio, and they've even got an upcoming racket sports game sometime later in 2023 to look out for. So looking forward to that. And future partnerships, I hope, with Resolution. They've been a great sponsor of the podcast. Thank you, Resolution. And I look forward to playing your games irrespective of what the future holds. So can't wait to see that racket game come out, because they've proven to me now, especially with Spatial Ops, that they still got it. They've been one of the most reliable sources of varied gameplay in VR.
That's the thing,
there's
right?
not a title that I've played of theirs.
That's the thing, right? Like it's such a varied genre. Like they don't really tie it down to one, but they kind of do a lot of different genres very well.
Mm-hmm. They do multiplayer very well. Like there's like all of the I played quite a few of their titles, but all of them, like I can usually get non-hardcore VR people to play just because they're so fun.
Yeah. Their software definitely is very like industry forwarding. Like a lot of studios and publishers are kind of well known for like a niche. These guys are kind of like hitting all the right titles to kind of push the industry forward. It's really cool to see. I definitely got some love for Resolution for sure.
It always makes me interested because I've seen behind the doors of some developers. It's like, this is the stuff that made it to the shelves for the customers. What didn't make it to the shelves? So maybe one of these days we're going to have to bring on Tommy or one of the others and ask him, grill him like, all right, tell us the stuff that didn't come
Zombie
out.
game.
What didn't make the cut?
Zombie titles.
I'm just really curious because I've seen some devs who we've interviewed before, and they've come on and they've told us, about what didn't come through. And it's great to hear that from those studios. Although sometimes they like to be a little bit close to the chest because they might tweak that idea and release it one day, but we'll see what we can get out of them maybe in the new year. So with that, let's move on to our news. This is our attention-seeking, weird little news bites section, and I'm going to try and keep this brief so we can get into all the CES context, which no doubt will be the main body for today. First off, and this is probably an interesting one, this is MetaQuest 1's what I'll call social sunset. So in a Meta blog update just this past week, Meta wrote, "We launched Quest 1 over 4 years ago." That one already took me back. I couldn't believe it's been 4 years since PAX East and was prancing around in the Quest 1 for Meta. That was fun, like a booth babe. My first time there ever. And they said, we stopped selling Quest 1 in 2020. For some reason, my brain didn't click with that happening. And that feels like a long time ago now. As we look forward to the future, we're grateful to the Quest 1 community, and we remain committed to supporting its users. As an existing Quest 1 user, your headset will still be supported with a few important changes. You'll still be able to use your Quest 1 headset and available apps. We're not going to ship any new features, so from a software development perspective, they're going to shut that down. We plan to continue maintaining system software with critical bug fixes until 2024, and I read that as until the 1st of January 2024, because we know Meta. Quest 1 users will no longer be able to create or join a party. And again, I'm echoing this here. A lot of you will have heard it and seen it on social media, but I think it's important to differentiate between Meta's own party system, which works like the PlayStation, the Xbox party systems, where you group up with friends before you hop into a game. And oftentimes on the Meta platform, that means you're kind of isolated almost away from the rest of the players on that platform. It's like a bubble, right, that you form your party with. But this isn't affecting, multiplayer games that have a service that's separate to the party system. So, for example, I would expect to be able to continue to play Golf Plus with my dad once a week. We wouldn't party up. We always do, pick up phones, talk to each other on WhatsApp, and then join a room code or something like that. Same thing if you were going to play Demio with someone or something along those lines. The other thing that's going to be going is the social features in Meta Horizon Home will be gone as of March 9th this year. And so that means you won't be able to invite others to your home or visit someone else's home. Now, I can't remember the last time I did that. It's been quite a long time. It was really Rift and Rift S era for me. Do any of you ever join into friends' homes on the Meta platform? like in the last year?
No.
No.
No, only the business one, like the workrooms, is the only one I kind of interacted with.
Right. So, and from a Quest 1 perspective, if you had a Quest 1 user, is Workrooms even supported on Quest 1 though? No, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I if you don't mind me, like I read the news about this, and all it did was really infuriate me. Because and I'll tell you why. Because I'm looking at it from a developer and from a tech perspective. What Meta's doing is essentially saying, hey, we're no longer allowing this device to be on our network. It's not going to be functional for the services that you expect from the platform, but we're not going to allow anyone to create this software for it, or to create these tools for it, or to create the support. So by them telling you, oh, you're still going to get the critical bug fixes, which that make no sense because it's never going to go on the network. They're pretty much telling you, hey, it's there, but you can't use it. We're not going to allow it. The Oculus, the Go recently went through a similar situation, and they were forced to open source it because a lot of people got upset. It's like, wait a minute, because of the GPL code in Android, if you lose support for it, you must open source it. So Meta, like, just open source the Quest 1. There's no reason for it. If you open source it, you give the opportunity for side quest really to take off, because now you have a huge open third-party market. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Point. Just do it, please.
I don't think they will.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I spoke to some people at Meta at CES, and they told me, yeah, you're right. That's the reason we're doing it. So just come on, talk to whoever you need to. Make the developer device that the industry needs. It's the Quest 1 open source.
Yeah. I would love a Quest 1 open source. And actually, it's funny because we're not many years beyond when it was first launched, and it was a very walled garden at that point. So, but you're right. That's a dream. That's a dream. You get the kind of the best kind of controllers and headset, and open it up to people to tinker with. Right now that it's the kind of the old headset that they're ushering out. I love your ask. I think it's a fair ask. Do I think Meta are going to do it? No, I honestly don't.
Somebody will. If they don't, somebody will. The developers will do it. This is the device that the industry wants. Once you port over the Quest 1, now you have the quality assurance that they need. It's come on.
I feel like if Carmack was still there, he might be able to pitch a case and push it, given his weight. Without him there, I wonder if there's an internal voice asking for that's got enough clout to make it happen. That's my question. Because Go, he was a huge proponent of, and I believe he also crowbarred that one into open source. So we're going to have to see what happens next. So that is Quest 1 news. I still have 2 Quest 1s in my house. So initially I went, oh God, multiplayer's not going to work. And then of course I saw a couple of dev posts and was like, okay, that'll still function, but it's time, right? It's probably time for me to flip those devices as well. So I'm not too disappointed. At least it isn't, a year after or whatever. Go was very quickly turned around. Wasn't too much a fan of that at the time, but hey, I know that Meta are very, very, very quick to drop support for their headsets. And I think that, if anything else, would lose me as a customer. They'd lose me as a customer for that reason and probably nothing else at this stage. All right, next bit of news. We had a little report by Upload VR, which I liked. I picked up on, and this is really just forward facing. It's about Intel and Intel's capability with their Wi-Fi 6E chip, the AX1690, which enables DCT, or double connect technology. Very simply, this is about getting a direct connection from your PC straight to the headset, instead of having to put another hop, through your router for the internet source. And so what does that do? That reduces the latency from headset to computer, which again is actually materially important when you're trying to render on device or render on the machine, and then keep it within that tolerance that our human eyes have for discernible latency. So apparently, again, in their graphics, they're showing a drop from 30 milliseconds as a kind of a reference down to 5 milliseconds. Like those low ping bastards from Counter-Strike LAN days, I remember from all the way back, right? So that's kind of neat. Now, this Intel chip can be purchased on its own with a plug-in card for custom PC builds. It's also present in some existing laptops, like the Razer Blade 15. So in short, and just in summary, we're reducing the number of hops through this direct piping technology. I love it. It's kind of like Bluetooth. I don't know how many of you use this Bluetooth feature, but more modern revisions of Bluetooth allow to, tether to multiple devices. So, I'll have my phone and my laptop, for example, sending audio to a pair of Bluetooth headphones I'm using during the workday, which is super handy because you get your notification bings and you get your music or whatever else. So that's really neat. And to see this in the Wi-Fi space, glad. I'm just, they're plowing the way. Look forward to seeing this more.
I actually I'm so glad you mentioned that. I actually did get a demo of the DCT direct connection at CES, because that's kind of like where my interests are currently. It's in the streaming side of VR. And the problem with it, there is a big limiter, is that you cannot have multiple connections in the same environment. So it's very prone to noise, which kind of, I don't know if it was the CES demo that I tried, but if you try multiple endpoints within the same environment, it is very prone to causing noise and disrupting other headsets. So I don't know if this is just because it's early hardware, but unfortunately, I did notice that there's a lot of a lot of interference between multiple streams in the same, so which kind of kills the value proposition, because people want to go wireless so they can interact around each other, multiple headsets in the same environment. It's not theoretically possible with this tech at the moment, at least that I saw.
Got it. Thanks. I'm still wondering, and we'll probably come on to this a little bit later, why they haven't done lead-lined booths at CES and places like that. Something to just limit the electrical interference, because it's a problem for many show floors, but CES is a special case, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. Thanks for your inputs on that, Jose. So the next one is a real bizarre thing. This is really featured here for those in the community who are maybe in the creator space, or maybe just in the working environment, like to present to others, kind of like your average Zoom calls and things like that. Nvidia have launched broadcast technology before, which was like sound suppression algorithms to help clean up your audio. So if in the back, you've got noisy kids, a television, washing machine, whatever it is, suppress all that nicely away. Then we've had obviously RTX with light casting and things like that on RTX cards. And now they're controlled very much like eye tracking, right? And this is all done through just some kind of AI magic, I'll call it. And so what this is NVIDIA have launched technology that will work in an RTX 2060 and up, that essentially, if you're not looking down the lens of the camera and you're kind of looking off to the side, it fakes it. It takes your eyeballs and basically remaps them so that it looks like you've got eye contact with your audience, even if you don't, which is a little zombie-esque and a little bit weird. But as this technology, comes into various things, it's kind of like the touch-ups you can do on Skype or things like that, where it's like, make me a little bit pretty, tidy up those wrinkles, smooth things over. And we're getting to a point now where we're just going a little bit more and more virtual. So this one is kind of an odd new technique that's come. I think it'll be very effective for people who are, budding YouTubers and things like that, who just want to read.
If you have like a Zoom lecture, you can just doze off in front of the screen and
I wish you could. You can't, unfortunately, almost. So this tech does preserve your blinks, your eye color, and it transitions between digital and real eyes if you look far enough off center. So there's kind of a tolerance there. So Rowdy, no sleeping yet. But that technology has to come to be very popular for digital college conferences and things like that.
Damn it.
Lectures.
I should have used it for this podcast episode, so I'm just awkwardly staring at everybody the whole time, and I'll try to blink as minimal as possible.
I'm gonna try it one time. And not tell you guys. Just set it up and see if you guys notice.
It's
actually,
not
I've
perfect,
been using
though.
it the entire time. No.
If you're wearing a hat and the brim is a little low, sometimes the fake eye will go over the brim of the hat, and it's very creepy, because I've seen Gamertag made a tweet about it.
I want it now.
And
oh my god.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I appreciate that they're trying to make more creator tools.
Doesn't it move also the video? Doesn't it frame it also? I think it adjusts the video too, that you're always in the center, so it moves. It kind of always adjusts you to follow you at all times. So you're also at the center.
Yeah. That's another feature.
They're weird.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They've also got vignetting and a few other kind of fancy tricks that look pretty neat, kind of a bokeh faux effect, right? So similar to what your smartphone does, if you have like a portfolio mode where you want to take a really nice selfie and it blurs the background in a similar kind of fashion that, you know, a modern digital SLR would do with a decent lens. So those kind of faux effects are interesting because they're definitely crossing, I don't know, is there an uncanny valley for special camera tricks? But that's kind of where we are. And it's interesting because I wonder if as humans, you know, eye contact is a really important thing for conversation, for understanding body language. It's a really important component. So now we're like entering the realm of like faking that. And I wonder how long is it going to be before, you know, I'm looking at Jose and he's got a headset on and I'm looking at his eyes that are presented to me through the front of the headset and they're not really his eyes. And is he really looking at me? Is he really making contact? There's all these other layers that come into it. It's just weird. So I wanted to, you know, it's not strictly VR, I would say, but it's going in that direction. Anything with our eyeballs, right? So
I'm excited. It's like subconscious training into being empathetic. I feel like people who are like like I always felt like even staring at like looking at people in the eyes it's something like it's always like being into you. It's like it's socially correct and to engage with people. And I hate staring at people in the eyes. Like I have ADHD, so I immediately start staring at their eyes, their pupils, like start counting down. Like so it almost feels like training for people who have like just weird social issues or glitches that they just it's going to train them into taking off their headset and immediately just looking at somebody in the eyes, and they're going to be used to it because they're subconsciously training themselves to deal with that.
Yeah,
I like that, people glitches.
Yeah, man.
People glitches.
It's, you know, we're all a bunch of NPCs, right, with different quirks. So it's
I'm
cool
a main
that
character. I don't know about
technology...
you, but like I'm definitely, I've got main character energy, man.
I'd be a villain then. I'd be a villain. But yeah, everyone's different because I mean, I know that it is ingrained that yeah, when you talk to someone, you're supposed to look them in the eyes. But I feel like, at least for me, or you know, even on the receiving end, it's kind of like a give and take. You don't want to be staring at them in the eyes the whole time. That just seems kind of weird, and then makes me kind of want to look away. So you gotta kind of shift around a little, like, you know, look them in the eyes, and then, you know, kind of naturally look at something else. Like it's a weird dance almost, and yeah, it's a learned thing over time. I think.
You just brought up a hot take that I don't want to bring up yet, but I'm gonna have to because you brought it up. But yes, I feel that those tools are going to make us just also like reject it on other applications like eye tracking. I had so much good eye tracking this year that I kind of went like, we can live without it. It's not as great as people think it is. It's not as useful. In fact, it's going to become just nausea. It's like the new 3D. It's like, okay, you're adding too much sensory overload to my eyes. I don't want eye tracking anymore.
Huh. What was an application that you? So I'm trying to just follow your train of thought there, Jose. Like from an eye tracking perspective, what are the applications that to you stood out as like it would be better without?
Menus. The PlayStation VR2 had a really good example. The eye tracking was probably one of the best eye tracking I've ever tried in a consumer level headset. And they immediately do a test setup like to calibrate it where they show like a bunch of spread out dots.
You are taking us right down to the main. I'm gonna have to muzzle you.
So it just shows you the menu. The problem is that with your eyes, because you can precisely control, the menus are too stuck together. So they added so many menu options. So now when you're selecting continue or options, you end up glancing at multiple inputs at the same time. You end up reading all the menu options. So it starts glitching out. It kind of makes you go like, okay, maybe eye control is good for one option to just stare at two. It's not as exciting because we only have two eyes. So why are we turning him into multiple inputs if we only have two inputs technically?
Does it feel to you then like when VR was really new? I mean, like DK1 era, which I know you tinkered with quite a bit. Like when you had head-based menu selections, it never felt natural.
Yeah.
Is it a bit like that?
Yes, 100%. It's like we're trying to turn our eyes into inputs that they were not really meant to do. Like it's good for via rendering and things like that, but for input selection, maybe for one or two inputs, that's it, because we only have two eyes. Don't go over two.
I disagree. Like with the head, to me, the head thing and the eye tracking were completely different. But I also don't have ADD or ADHD, so when I want to select something, I can focus on it. But I think maybe that is something that they didn't consider when they were making the technology. Is like, hey, people with ADD, they might be looking at multiple things at one time, but they didn't know that until
was
after.
Going everywhere, Adam. It was like you could see it like it was like listing through all the menu options to select. I accidentally hit continue and exited the game for a second.
Oh, God.
It's rough. It's really rough.
Yeah, these considerations you don't realize until after. Luckily, I'm not luckily, but like I said, for me, I didn't come across that. But I can see for someone like my husband didn't get to try it, but he does, for example. So I'm wondering if he would have had the same thing, where it's like you have to, for menus specifically, you have to look at it to kind of highlight it and then select it. But yeah, what if you're just like kind of all over the place? It's gonna be hard to narrow down.
I can't wait till I see someone try this where they enable it on a storefront and someone goes, oh, no. And they look at a game, they purchase it, check out, whatever. And it's like, I didn't mean to do that.
What are my eyes doing? Stop.
Stop it off.
This is great. Well, we will come back to PSVR2 a little later on. As I muzzle my co-hosts here.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of excited, jumping around and bopping to music, let's talk about the Wave on PICO and their recent collaboration with a lead music artist. Now they've done a bunch of these before. Some of you will know of the Wave and will have tried with this if you've been with VR for some time. But basically, PICO viewers were given the access to have an exclusive extended version of a concert that was also being broadcast and premiered on TikTok Live at the same time. And in their headsets and PICO headsets, Wave has come back. Let me tell you a little bit about Wave if you don't know what it is before I go on to what happened at Calvin Harris's music gig there just on the 13th, which was yesterday. So Wave's mission is to bring people together through virtual entertainment. They create the world's most interactive virtual concerts performed by live artists, influenced by fans, and experienced together in real time. The show offers a front row seat to the future of live music performance while in the metaverse. Now, it is an instance-based technology. I've never been in a Wave with like 500 people per se, but it is a really interesting experience. And some of the artists that have presented through these, what they call waves, this kind of experience, you might recognize, John Legend, The Weeknd, Dylan Francis, the ones who I personally experienced, Jean-Michel Jarre, Imogen Heap, for example, had an amazing set back in the day when she was broadcasting from the middle of her house with this piano piece and her vocals and some interactivity with some cool tech gadgets. The whole thing is done in almost like a pixel array in a 3D environment in a way that's, I think, very true to the artist's music. So it's quite unique, or was unique before others started playing in this. And they had to move away from VR engagement for a time just to stay alive as a company. And now they're back, which I'm really glad for. It's a pity they're on PICO because I wasn't able to experience this thing live for myself. And as a fan of Calvin Harris's music, wasn't able to jam with that. But I can tell you, Calvin got me a bit through the summers when he was doing sets during COVID times. He would have these large DJ sets live, and that was pretty incredible. But from the other music buffs who I know, they went along and had kind of a VR chat level experience in terms of the visuals of what you can imagine is in this instanced Wave experience. So I'm glad to see him back. I would just welcome the Wave back to the VR scene, because please stay this time, stay put. And if sponsors are thinking, hey, we should maybe go promote them, absolutely do. I really think I want to see more music stuff done through VR. It's one of the best ways to just gel with others and have a good time. So,
for example, on FReality,
have you all,
they can come here. No,
they could come here. I wasn't begging for sponsors, but hey, there you go. There's a pivot. Have any of you experienced like music through VR, like a concert or a gig like that? Jose, you have?
Oh yeah, I actually tried the Wave. There's one I'm blanking out on. It's the Horizon Worlds venues, I think it's called. That they have. They did like the Biggie experience recently during the holidays, which was really cool. They recreated like the set of the Bronx, and they had a lot of cool stuff going on, Brooklyn, and a lot of cool like New York recreational spots. So that was actually pretty cool. But I love virtual concerts. I'm all about them.
the last one where I got like properly a sweat on, I was jumping up and down like an idiot in my room, because I'm that way with music. I really am. I'm a concert goer. I love that stuff. Was Major Lazer. There was a Major Lazer one that had been done. And man, it was fantastic. I think myself, one of the other chatters in chat, Dark Angel, we were trying to get together like in that environment to like enjoy the music, but just couldn't do it in venues. Venues was so cumbersome at the time. But yeah, some of that stuff has been really good. I mean, I haven't gone into venues, but isn't it Welcome to the second half of the FReality Podcast. We had a short break there. Thank you, Microsoft. Windows loves Rowdy. It's after all of his Linux playtime, I think. Hey, Rowdy?
I think so. Dear God, I hate that system.
All right. Well, we'll keep going from where we left off. So we were talking about Sony's global press conference, and I just said that GT7 and Beat Saber are coming to the platform. Interesting, particularly that Meta is going to have now not just a moneymaker in their own ecosystem, but also within Sony's ecosystem, which is an interesting change. Now, I think Beat Saber was out for PSVR1 as well. I remember playing that when they launched story mode, which was great. So this might even swing all the way back to Beat Games having a relationship with Sony, and perhaps they're doing some share of the cut. I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing: that thing makes money. Like very, very few VR games do. It's been top for quite some time. Now, in addition to that news that we got for PSVR2 with Gran Turismo 7 I'm worried about the Rowdy's going to be right here, honestly, when it comes to hybrid VR and stuff, because we've got a well-known, renowned IP that's having a VR mode added in the same way that Resident Evil is. And the quality of those conversions is going to mean a lot to first-time adopters, especially for people who lay out, the more than $1,000 to get their PS5 plus PSVR2 setup going, and then they go to the title that they love in VR, and that may serve as their ultimate benchmark for, is VR worth it, or do I take this all back to the shop? So I'm going to hold my tongue there for don't know until it comes. And Sony's been eerily quiet since December and November. We heard from them about PSVR2, the pre-orders and all this. There are some good IPs coming. There are some decent game launches, whether they're coming launch day or afterwards. But I got to say, it feels a little bit fragile. So we're going to have to just see how it goes over the next, 40 to 50 days as people start to get their first hands-on impression, as we will, with PSVR2 and all of that tech. So keen, very, very, very keen on where that's going to go. And before we go into CES, and we can come on to your hands-on experiences with PSVR2, maybe as our first topic, I wanted to also feature something that I thought was really, for me, from the Sony press conference. It wasn't the VR news that was the most interesting to me. It was actually this accessibility controller, Project Leonardo, that they launched, which is a saucer-shaped, customizable controller. So the button layout can be physically altered to help players with disabilities play easily, comfortably, and for longer. Xbox had done something like this a couple of years back now, which we had featured on the podcast at the time. Is not yet confirmed that this will work along with PSVR. I would love it if they were their experiences, which could be the gamepad, and I know that harkens to Ardos, the kind of left and right sides, and a DualShock controller, so you can get the help of a friend or a family member, for example. But I really love this kind of stuff. When a big company decides to open the door to people who are otherwise locked out from so much on the world, and to bring them to places, again, like Horizon, man, blow their minds. If anyone deserves it, to have their minds blown and to be, freed from the jail of physicality, it's those people. So I'm just like super enthused about this. It's a really radical piece of like hardware equipment. I'm excited for people who are going to get the opportunity to play in a way that they haven't before.
Yeah, and what made me really bummed out about it, specifically the Sony variant, is that they didn't allow you to adapt the inputs, which is create custom ones, which is the Xbox variant actually gives you access to the actual analog, so you can actually add or create your own custom inputs. The Sony one felt very targeted to specific joints. It kind of went like, oh, if you can't use your fingers, you can probably use your toes. But what about what happens if you don't have toes and you actually really are now creating custom inputs? I've worked with a lot of people that use inputs under chins, right? They're actually the right side. They actually can control and play games with the muscle for their neck. So there's a lot of weird inputs, and the Xbox variant allows you to create custom inputs for that. Where the PlayStation variant kind of gives you selectable buttons. It does give you the input to kind of use another controller, but now you're kind of, if you have to create like a solution for analog, for example, you can use the analog on the controller, but that's kind of where you're left at, right? Where that's kind of where I kind of felt like, man, I really want to love this, but is it truly accessible if they're really kind of not giving you the ability to really create a custom input peripheral like the Xbox version does? So I feel like they're almost there, but they're not truly there yet.
Yeah, so it's still quite Sony, as in it's quite proprietary in its nature. And I like the fact that they did consider, different pressure levels, the remappable configuration, the layout. But the point that you're making, and again, we're kind of talking towards the open heart of open source software and, for the good of all. I'm not sure Sony's there yet, and thank you for highlighting that. That's a very good point.
It's truly important because we often think of like the ability to interact with these games as just, oh man, you can't hold out to a controller and use it. But what about when you don't have the indexes at all, and you have to really think of custom solutions? And that's what I loved about there's, I don't know if you guys know who Ben Heck is, but he's a very well-known modder in the industry. And he actually creates a lot of accessibility inputs, and that's actually one of the first things that was highlighted. It was like, okay, this is great, but is it truly accessible if there is the big market that is going to be using this for accessibility, which is the market that there's no controller option available? You need to think of them. That's like the first people you think of is the ones that nothing in the market is viable for them.
Works.
This input technically can be used by anyone. It sucks. It's kind of like a weird roundabout way. It's like it's almost there, but it's just like just give people the option to map out like an auxiliary, so now they can create like a little button for their jaw, for their teeth. It's a simple add-on. And I don't see.
And it doesn't seem to be it's not a commercial threat to Sony as far as I can consider. Right? It's just you're opening up because again, it's like on a software layer having an API. You're just saying you plug in here, you have your extra accessory, and it's going to be read through and interpreted in the right way. I think it's an excellent point that you are making. Thank you for highlighting that. Adam, you were trying to say something there as well?
Oh, no, it's surprising that they wouldn't have done that, actually, because I didn't read too much into it. But after hearing that, it's like, yeah, why? I wonder what the reasoning was, if there was one, or they just, I don't know.
Sony has historically hated modular like functions for buttons. Like, for example, like the turbo button for controllers. Sony has always hated those functionalities because they feel like it's breaking their ecosystem or some input. So maybe there is some kind of reasoning that they were like, hey, we don't want to open up the floodgates for custom peripherals to be brought in or whatever. Sony's very, very locked when it comes to custom peripherals.
We can scan this down on their pages a little bit earlier. Onikazi in chat was saying from the product page, this comment about a 3.5 mil aux port. So Project Leonardo is expandable through 4 3.5mm aux ports to support a variety of external switches and third-party accessibility accessories.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's
that
answering
possibly
perhaps.
is. Okay, that does answer my question. That was not in the dev unit that they had on display. That's exactly what I was looking for. So if it does have the expandability option to connect other peripherals, not just PlayStation controllers, because that's what I was told, then yes, if they allow third-party peripherals, then that's the way to go.
Could also be the limits of the booth person's knowledge as well.
That's true too.
In that respect. So thanks again, AjnaXR, long time watcher of the podcast there. Let's move into CES 2023 finally, because I know you're all bubbling to the brim, especially Adam and Jose, who got to be there with their hands on everything. So we're gonna go device by device. I'm gonna ask and beg and plead that you give us your impressions of PSVR2 first and foremost. So I will say no more. Who wants to go first into PSVR2 impressions?
Can I go first? Just because I know Jose is going to get into all the technical stuff, which is my weak point. So mine might be shorter anyway. But so I was able to book a demo. I was super excited. And this is coming from someone who's also played the Horizon games, so I can give you a little bit on my thoughts on the game as well, or what the 15-20 minutes I got to try. I will say my favorite part about the headset were the haptics. Like I actually kind of forgot about the facial haptics. So getting to feel when like a tall neck goes over from like the left side to the right side, not only with the the new haptics they have in the controllers, but also on your face, it really it added another layer to the immersion that I didn't even think about. So that was really cool. I think the haptics alone were one of my favorite parts.
Quick question, Adam. Is that oriented then? So was it a sweeping feeling? Can you describe, was it just like having an N64 Rumble pack strapped to your face?
No, I feel like it was actually oriented towards the space. Like it felt smooth going from like left, foot stomps, you feel on the left, it lifts up the foot, and then you could feel it on the right. Like it didn't feel like vibrating face, because that would have been like, what is happening? I don't like this. This is weird. I can't give much on the cable other than I didn't notice it. It didn't seem heavy, but I was also, I'm at a convention center and there's guys talking to me and people are taking pictures. So there's a lot going on, but I at no point did I ever feel like, oh, this is a bummer. Like I have a cable on me, because there was just so much happening. I will say that going back to the eye tracking a little bit, I did like that, but again, I don't have ADD or ADHD. So basically, in the menus, he's like, okay, look at, start or whatever. And then I don't know if he was pressing X or I could press it, or just pressed it after you looked at it for a set amount of time. But I think there's probably multiple options there for that at least in the Horizon game. But yeah, it was pretty much to calibrate the eye tracking initially. It's like they had, I forget how many dots, but you follow these dots with your eyes. They're kind of in like a weird ring. And then the second part is on like a black screen, and you just kind of, the dot moves more smoothly. So they say, move with your eyes, not with your head, obviously. Then it's on a white screen, and you do kind of the same follow movement. And then that's how it calibrates your eyes, I guess.
Quick question. Do you have to do that? I'm thinking back to like the Xbox Connect days, where you had this little smiley card you had to hold up to calibrate it every time you played. Do you have to do that calibration every time you put the headset on?
I'm not sure.
It's saved. I asked them that. It saves into the console. It will only trigger a room setup if it detects that the environment changed significantly. So if it detects like a little obstruction near you, it's just going to probably let you know, hey, there's obstruction, just like the Quest 2 does, where it kind of highlights red. Yep. If there's something in your play field, it will just tell you, hey, there's something in your field. Do you want to recalibrate? But it's the eye track data is saved onto the headset itself. Onto the headset. That's what he told me, not the console, which was very weird. He said that. But I was like, you said headset, not console. He's like, yeah, the headset has its own settings saved onto it. So I don't know how much that is, but eye tracking data is on the headset itself.
Okay. And what about, we got this question in chat, so I'll just, Funky Sloth asks, was it comfortable?
Yes, I thought it was, well, I will say, not ponytail friendly, if anyone has long hair or other females. So I had to remove my ponytail. Maybe I could just move the ponytail somewhere else. But other than that, yeah, I found it to be very comfortable. It was very lightweight. Like I didn't have any issues with it. The only issues I had was because it's not my headset. I probably would have adjusted it a little more. I was also too afraid to look really high up because I don't want to, wreck someone's expensive headset. So, but there are little adjustments I could have made where it could have been more perfect for me. But
got it.
But I thought it was comfortable. Like once I get it in home, I know I could adjust it to be even more to my liking. But as far as the controls, if you've played on a Quest or any other VR anything, it just felt very natural. Luckily, the game tells you, it shows you if you're like press X to do whatever, instead of having to like what's the X button, it'll show you a layout of the controllers, so you can kind of feel for where that button is based on the visual. Which thank God, because I'm like I don't know what the X button. I don't even know what the buttons on the Quest are most of the time. I don't remember.
Like. I know, Rowdy, you're saying you're glad for that. One of my, like in the 2016, 2017 era, one of the things I hated was I know these controllers, I'm playing with the system all the time, and they would do these ghost tooltip, growing out of the controller like a plant, and you couldn't get them to go away. If that's optional, I'm fine with it. But otherwise, if it's always there, it's just an annoyance.
Luckily, it wasn't
I
a
don't think
ghost.
it's always
it was
there.
flat.
It's the tutorial,
Yeah.
I think.
You can
right?
remove it.
Yeah.
In order to.
It was during the tutorial.
Okay.
So it would be like a scroll would come up and it would be like, to dodge, press this. But the image would be on that scroll that you see. It wouldn't actually be on your hands. So you could get rid of that as quickly as you wanted. But that I appreciate.
How were the controllers in hand? They just like the weight of them, and particularly if you bring your hands close together, like they look like they're a little bit more handle. I'm gonna make a word up. Like they're going around your hands, and so bringing them together, was that difficult or cumbersome in any way?
It felt natural. It was hard for me because my left controller was dying, and there was a lot of like just Bluetooth everything happening. So occasionally my left hand would kind of bug out. And I think that would cause me to sort of force me to clack them together because the hand wasn't appearing, unfortunately. I don't blame them necessarily on that. I was told the guy was ready with another left controller ready to to swap out. But I naturally, like without the bugginess of my left hand disappearing, I didn't clack them together. Even when, getting an arrow and having to, knock it on your bow, I didn't have any issues. And it felt natural. It felt like any other controller that we've tried, really. So other than the haptics being really good, of course.
And the design of the controller, to what you're saying, is that you never get the sense that you're going to hit them with each other because they have like a crescent moon kind of thing, where like if you put them together, you make it like a perfect sphere sort of thing. So even when you go over the headset, there's nothing obstructing the bottom of your palm, only over it. So even if you're moving the headset over, it's a very clever design. So it's actually designed enough that even if you move your hands really close together like this, the actual shield of your hand will kind of like crescent moon over each other. So you never actually connect the controllers. It's very smart.
That's really it's really a nice kind of feel. And how are the haptics on the controller itself, would you say? In combination with the headset. Did you notice any if you were feeling haptics in the headset and in your hands? Was there any delay between those signals, or were you finding that those were in sync?
I didn't notice a delay. I thought having both together was epic. Like it was really good because, like, again, any explosions or rumbles, heavy footsteps, like to be able to almost like you didn't feel it full body because it's only hands and head, but it felt a lot more like you were in it just because of the way that they did the haptics. I will say it's probably one of my favorite parts. I really did like the haptics. They did a really good job, and with the draw of the bow, because they got kind of the more sensitive triggers and everything. That was like one of my favorite parts. I was super excited after that.
That's what stood out to me the most about this demo too. It's 100% hardware. The perfect synergy of using just the individualized motors all the way up for the facial tracker into the hands. Adam mentioned it earlier. You actually, it's the magic of feeling the vibration swing from the right side to your left side, and you actually feel it starting from your fingertips going up to your hand, and then immediately you feel it on the right side of your face going left and ends up in your hand. It creates the magic of vibration around you, and it's incredible. They do that in perfect synergy with the sound design, so it kind of just it immerses you in a very powerful way.
Your brain
that's
will
what I
fill in the
tell.
gaps, right?
The best way to describe the PSVR2, it's what we're already used to with high-end PCVR, just accessible to the rest of the world. That's what I couldn't stop thinking about. This is the index for the broader industry. It's really fun.
But the haptics
The
are new,
synergy
no?
between
Like
haptics.
we
Yeah.
don't have something like that really
No,
in the PC
absolutely
world.
not.
So.
That's what you get from a AAA, game hardware company that knows what makes it to get you connected into the video games. It's hardware quality assurance, it's software quality assurance. In terms of visual clarity and it's we've seen it before. This is you have a Valve Index at home, you're not going to get anything better than this. It's just yes, the inputs, the haptics, the way that the software is perfectly showcased in this hardware. That's something you can only get from a company that knows video game design.
I would think, how about the colors and like the field of view? Are you saying it's kind of on level with Index? I know
I would
you're
say
a
I would
daily.
say it's more on the level of the Quest Pro. The lenses definitely. The field of view felt more Quest Pro-ish to me. It's all I could think about was the Quest Pro.
Is that better than Index? I assume it is.
Oh yeah. But the Index has the comfort levels, the accessibility of you being able to do so much with them, right? That's what I mean about the feeling and the experience. You have an Index at home, you can probably do anything with PCVR. If you want to add haptics, you can get, haptic suit, tack gloves, whatever you name it. You can modular yourself up from there. This is accessible. That's what the PSVR2, it's that accessible solution for all of that we kind of been always chasing and adding on to get to that point. This is just ready out the box. You want to have complete immersion from haptics and sound design, get the PSVR2. What worried me was that they didn't allow you to try the PSVR2 audio solution, the actual on-headset audio. They had me using the over-the-ear,
the Pulse 3D
headphones.
Yeah. So I don't know if without that there is going to be an immersion lack, but
where does the jack? Sorry, where does the 3.5mm jack appear on the headset? Is it back, sides?
Good question. I did not see it. I'm going to assume in the back because pretty much all the inputs were near it. They did tell me that the charging port was near the back also, so I'm assuming maybe the audio is somewhere near that or in the front. That's a good question. I actually did not check. I got quickly into just seeing the visuals and getting they actually didn't want you looking at the headset very much. They merely kind of put you in there and get you ready to start,
and then out of it, right? Just feel the experience. That's really I've heard it was a very heavily regimented like demo area, and
they were not fooling around.
Strict timeline, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right? they were actually very not pleased with me during the demo because I'm a gamer, so I kind of know what I'm doing. So I immediately started playing Horizon, and there's a part in the demo where you are supposed to grab onto the ledges and kind of swing your way up to the mountain, climb up, and get into a boss battle. So I don't know what happened where my controller, I think it was my left hand, glitched out, and I guess the controller flew me upwards. So I ended up flying over the ledges, and I ended up landing on top of the ledge, which you're not supposed to walk over. And so I was like, okay, well, let me just walk over the ledge. So I'm like struggling through the ledge to the other side. And the guy's like, that's not funny. That's not funny. Grab onto the ledge under you. I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry. It's not my fault.
Yeah, they were really.
Like, he was not happy.
Like, forced, or I wouldn't say forced. Maybe if I had asked, I could have had the normal smooth movement. I mean, there was. They did allow like smooth turning and stuff, but there was like 3 different comfort options, and we picked the middle because they made you pick it, and that's the one where you have to, in order to run, you've got to pump your arms, which I was like, oh man, I kind of.
There is somebody to blame for that. There is somebody to blame for that. And the guy who gave me the demo told me specifically why they're not allowing the advanced movement. And it was because Bradley Lynch tried it. Sadly, as Bradley tried the demo, they let him use it. And apparently he was messing with smooth turning. And so apparently the game is not optimized for smooth turning yet. So it's like rendering really slowly when it's not in your peripheral. Yeah, so he was moving so fast. So there's a lot of video that surfaced of people seeing the screen kind of glitching out, and it went crazy on the forums. So it's There's I asked for that too, and they did not let me. It's like, nope, snap turning. Nope. And I was like, come on.
But yeah, otherwise, go ahead. I was going to touch on the game.
I was going to say the same thing happened to me at PAX East when I went. Is I got to try this game that had been lagged for ages and was on show by Sony, which was Ghost. Day one, I went in just before they opened, tried it out, broke the game, and then they didn't show it to anybody else. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
Good job.
And they're like, I thought you were showing Ghost. I was like, no. So Brads are bad.
Dude, the guy reset my demo because I was like, I was plowing. Like I jumped like a whole entire war. It wasn't my fault, to be honest. Like the controller glitched out. I think one thing that I did notice, and this is not something that I want to confirm because obviously tests have to be made, but I noticed, and Adam mentioned it too, a lot of people started having a lot of issues with their left-handed controller. I don't think that it was the controller itself. I think it was Apple Watches or smart devices. Usually people wear smart devices on their left hand, and the left controller was going crazy for a lot of people. I did have some people try the demo out without a smartwatch, and they had no issues. So I don't know if that was just placebo, but there is a possibility that smart devices might mess with something.
I think in terms of the amount of testing and also things like FCC requirements for electronic interference, I would imagine that they would have tested it with I'll call it more than your average home amount of electronic interference. And from what I've heard from people who've tried PSVR2 outside of CES, there's not been tracking issues. So like that's absolutely not something I'm concerned about. Adam, back to your point, the original fiery issue of the cable, I understand the cable length is a 5-meter cable, which is plenty long for most setups. The only thing that I'm still concerned about is the little USB-C connection at the front of the PS5. Anyone who's got their PS5 vertical, and then when that gets yanked, if it's not a MagSafe magnetic connection, and it is just a USB-C connector in there, someone's going to total their console, right? By just pulling the cable and wrapping around their feet or something like that. So I haven't seen yet if there is a smart, by default, magnetic connector to PS5. But if anyone in chat knows, or if you guys have seen it,
I hope not. Please no. Please no. I'm very anti-magnet chargers.
I know.
The reason for I have repaired so many magnet ends that get stuck inside the port charger because so I'm so traumatized of that. Second, real quick PSA, I don't know if you noticed them, but Sony said that you shouldn't have PlayStation 5s vertically standing anymore.
There is that news is still hot off the press. I've seen conflicting opinions this week, so I don't know if you've read all of it, but it does seem. I know there's the whole melting thermals inside it, which can cause it to fail. If that happens to me, I'll buy another PlayStation. I really am not gonna.
I heard the thermal paste like leaking off of it. I was like, actually, that does make a lot of sense, but I don't know.
Yeah, I saw retractive statements from Sony and the people who originally provided it, so I'm not going to comment officially on that yet, but look it up. You know, if you got a PS5, one of the things you might want to do is put it on its side. I just think the PS5 on its side looks ugly vertically.
Yes,
it's quite a nice.
It doesn't fit anywhere.
Nice console. Yeah, it's huge. It's like a freaking yacht. So what are the things you come away from? Like, should people who are interested in PlayStation and that whole ecosystem go pre-order if they haven't?
100%. Get it. If you're not, go ahead.
If you're like a VR fan or you want an upgrade from the PSVR 1, yes. I still would like to see more games for it. That would be my only thing sort of holding me back. But as far as just the hardware itself, yes, absolutely.
I would say
I'm not really worried. I'm not really worried on the game side personally, because all of the VR launches that I've lived through have all been pretty light, but great things come. And I think because Sony's such an attractor to devs, I think there's money to be made there. And so I'm not worried on software personally. But yeah, Jose, what was your
tracking? No, I would say it's looking at the benchmarks that the hardware's hitting. For developers, the PlayStation 5 is an x86, pretty much same as computer. So the development is going to be pretty easy to port over. It's not going to be difficult like the PSVR originally had, where they had to kind of rebuild the tracking. This is a much easier porting solution. That's why they're kind of going. There's Sony is a very methodical. They really like to make sure that developers who are looking at the ports that can announce, oh, Beat Saber works on it. This is OpenXR. They're kind of letting developers know through the software launch games that this is completely easy to port towards. In terms of the hardware, once again, it's just a Quest Pro. If you're really looking to get into the best of VR, it's very easy to get into this. I love the quality assurance in hardware. I would say it feels even better built than most of these headsets. It's designed for this is designed to fall on the floor a few times.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, that's what I look at. You can kind of feel a premium hardware just based on how you feel, how hollow it feels, knowing where the motherboard is, the mechanical interior parts are. It's like, oh man, if I bash this, front face first, it's going to be safe because of the way it's hollowed through the top.
That's the thing. The PSVR 1, when I first got it out of the box, I still remember to this day, I felt like if I have a nephew or a niece, I am not letting him toy with this headset because they're going to break some part of it. It didn't feel as solid as like the CV1 or any of the DKs, right? It just didn't feel it felt fragile to me.
Yeah.
And now it lived, right? Yeah. The plastic died after 3 years or whatever, started flaking. But the unit actually survived. I saw one really nasty one where someone had left it on the ground and a dog chewed the thing up. But aside from those horror stories on Reddit, does this one, particularly at the hinge, the facial gasket part, which I heard is like an accordion on the outside that comes back to your face.
So one of my biggest issues with the Quest Pro is the gasket, the facial gasket, how easy it is to like kind of rip off. This uses an accordion style, which it's kind of designed for you to forget that you're supposed to slowly slide it off and pull it off. So if you kind of do it quickly, I actually did it on purpose at the end of the demo. I kind of like took it off as fast as I possibly could. And you can feel like I'm going to assume it felt like an elastic cord on the inside. Like I felt like it immediately tugged it back once I pulled it off. So it helps it keep it in place. There's just little, I don't know if it's like an elastic band that's inside of it holding the accordion in just like as a second tug. But there's definitely a lot of, once again, hardware quality assurance. The cable, the end of the cable where it comes out of the headset, there is a two cylindrical, and you can tell that they're actually printed onto the plastic molding of the cable sleeve, which once again, things I think about is ripping the cable off. So you can feel that there's like a plastic ball bearing on the other end of the cable. So you can technically, use this as a lasso and, swing it at somebody and know that the headset's going to stick to the cable.
Just to make it clear for all of our listeners, like if you break your headset, it's Jose that will cover it, not FReality. You can use it, right?
If somebody does a demo of using the PSVR 2 and they're swinging it over their head, I will love that video. Somebody please send it to me.
I can't. No, I'm one of those people who, when people abuse hardware, it hurts me. Like I don't like seeing that. I absolutely love that you're saying that because I know someone's gonna do it now.
I can't wait. Someone's just gonna lasso it over their head.
God.
You don't think about all the demos that we have seen in VR, like the headset hanging over on the hook and somebody falls and the headset's hanging. Those are the use cases that I think about. It's like, man, like I want to make sure this headset lasts a very long time. And the PSVR 2 does give me confidence from just holding it, feeling, just grabbing it, putting it on. You can tell that this hardware is going to last. The plastic feels really good.
Did you last
I wish I could see.
Well, or no?
I wish I could, man. I don't think that would. I think that would have been my last CES for sure. But
I got some questions in chat here for you, so I got to bring these up for both of you, Adam and Jose. Question was, well, I guess this one's for Jose. Is the Quest Pro or the PSVR 2 more comfortable? Like after 30 minutes, I think it was a 20-minute demo that you had.
The Quest Pro feels a lot more comfortable for me in terms of long-term use.
With the Elite
I can definitely tell that the PSVR 2, after like an hour or 2 hours of gameplay, you might get some back end fatigue because the headset kind of still even though it's very light, it does still accordion over the front of your face. I hope they release like maybe like a halo mod or something like that, so it can kind of land over your head a little bit for long-term sit-down gaming.
You're talking about the Elite hep strap, though, right? Not the
yes, the Elite strap. No, not the original. No, the Quest Pro strap.
No, Quest Pro.
Quest Pro. Yeah. No. Because the Quest Pro at least kind of feels a lot more closer to your nose, so it kind of hangs over your nose a little bit, where the Quest Pro kind of covers your entire cheek, so it doesn't kind of stay on your cheek a little bit. That could also be, like Adam mentioned earlier, this isn't our headset, so they're not properly adjusted to our head sizes, so maybe through that. But I would definitely say the Quest Pro is a lot more comfortable than the PSVR2. But the PSVR2, the hardware, the way it feels on your face, especially against your cheeks, the foam, there is enough comfortable materials being used that you really don't notice that difference unless you're purposely trying to compare it with a Quest Pro. And that's exactly what I did. I had the Quest Pro with me 15 minutes before I used the demo for the PlayStation VR2. I used the Quest Pro just so I can have like a really refreshed thought of the Quest Pro. But most people that are going to buy the PSVR2 don't have a Quest Pro, so they're not even going to be comparing it. You're not going to notice the difference. There's no Quest Pro in your world if you own a PSVR2. You're not even going to go looking for it. And that's really what made me the most excited about the PSVR2 is that this device might be the one headset to rule them all for quite a bit. Anything that comes off for gaming. Yeah.
I was just going to say, it seems to have gotten a lot of the various factors right, and it seems to be a substantial improvement from the first. There were two questions, Adam, I'll swing towards your way. The first one was, did Horizon, that demo, did that have finger tracking? Were you able to see the dexterity in your fingers is the first one?
Not individually, because I did try this, but I was also, again, having some tracking issues. I was able to make gestures. Like a couple times I made like peace signs, and so I think it's maybe an accident, because I'm just like, I wanted to see the fingers work. So I want to go into it more, because again, I don't have ADD, but I feel like I got distracted by other things after I did I can see my fingers. I don't think it's individual like an index have, but you can, at least in Horizon, have certain fingers or make certain gestures. I don't know if that's if that's intentional or that's gonna be useful in the game later on for anything, but I was pleased. It wasn't like like the lobster. There's more movements than just
there was
the grip,
individual finger tracking like the index. Like this game feels a lot like Half-Life Alyx, but in a dinosaur, more optimistic world setting, even though it's apocalyptic too. But
so a question there. Someone was asking. To me, I guess this would be an obvious answer, but were the game graphics much better than PSVR1 games? I
haven't tried PSVR1.
So it's a PS5. It's you're gonna get the best graphics that the PS5 can push out. It's definitely better that you're gonna get on an all-in-one headset, tenfold. It has a dedicated graphics card.
PSVR1 is going way back now. Like in terms of the visuals on that, it feels like, I'm not going to quote resolutions here, but to me, in my brain, it's like a 800 by eye or something. It's really low compared to.
And they made it work with the original PlayStation 4. We have to remember that the PlayStation VR worked on the original PlayStation.
I know, not even the Pro.
So they really, the breakout box, like the checker, and that's what makes, going back to the value of the PlayStation VR2 is the software value. The PlayStation VR introduced us to checkered rendering. They opened up the floodgates to the PlayStation 4 Pro, which is the ability to take the renders upwards in software. Think about all of that value that's going to now bringing that made the PS4, the PSVR valuable or valuable solution till now. Think of those solutions being brought into this high-end headset. So now we're going to probably see 4K checkered rendering to probably 8K checkered rendering, right? Because the hardware can handle that. It's running natively at 4K, but it's making, all of that rendering is adding, visual polarities, foveated rendering, which was something that I don't think the Horizon demo had. And the guy giving me the demo told me, it's like, hey, this will be able to do foveated rendering, and you start thinking about foveated rendering with checkered rendering, and now you have really wild details that are going to be brought into visuals that I'm super excited about. That developers have a target hardware specification to go after. It's not like the Valve Index or these other PCVR environments that you're going for a 490 plus the headset or a 3070 plus the headset. You're going to get different scale up of graphics. This is going to be the same every single time. So they'll be able to optimize this hardware. Think about The Last of Us that came out literally at the tail end of the original PlayStation 4, leading up to the PS4, to the PS4 Pro, and people were like, "How did they get this game running 30 frames per second?" But they got it running. We're going to see that value of tech and software development skills being brought into VR, which is what the VR industry really needs. It's maturing. That's what the PSVR2 represents. It's matured hardware. Now the developers can go crazy and optimize to how much they possibly can with this hardware.
We did get another PlayStation VR2 question. So VR Flight Sim Guy said, "Hey guys, what do you think of the lenses since they are Fresnel instead of pancake?" Apologies if you mentioned this already.
Foveated rendering. That's the value. They're going to go after graphical quality in order for the lenses not to become a problem. Think of the best way to describe they're aware that they're using different style of lenses, so the rendering is taking advantage of those lenses. Think of the 8-bit screens, LCD screens back in the 90s, how games were designed to optimize those displays so the games look a lot better. And it ended up in modern times, like when you think of pixelated graphics, they're actually emulating what people saw on the screen without realizing that the developers were designing it a different way behind the scenes so it can look the way you see it, because there were certain color maps. So the lenses, they're fully aware of the limitations of these lenses, so they're doing a lot of rendering tricks in order for the lenses not to become a problem. Field of view didn't become a problem because they're using a lot of local dimming on the displays, so it keeps you focused on what you're staring at. It's just a lot of visual trickery. I didn't really care about the lenses, to be honest.
Okay. And question for Adam and then Jose, maybe, if you can still give him some word budget. Horizon, the demo itself compared to the flat game. Can you tell me what you liked, what you didn't like?
Okay. I think that this is going to be sort of like the Index Half-Life Alyx bundle. Like, it's the perfect game for the hardware that's coming out. If you are a Horizon fan, it felt at home. There's a lot of climbing. You're going to be using a lot of bow, getting to see a Snapmon VR, made me smile. I was so happy. I will say, though, I don't know if this is specifically because of the comfort options or if this is going to change, but the combat is kind of weird in that instead of being able to free roam, you're on a track. So the only things you can do is dodge left and right with the thumbstick. You can't actually free move around. So you kind of get into an instance locked combat once you're in battle with something. So yeah, you don't have
Did you battle more than one enemy, or was it always a single enemy that you were up against?
Just one, because the other ones were more like environmental battles. It was a fancy cutscene, you know what I mean? But this one, when you actually got into a battle with something and then it did the tutorial, it's like, oh, you use the joystick, go left and right to dodge. So you're pretty much just going left and right. I will say that I don't know if the eye tracking is also tied to the bow, but I feel like it was, because I feel like even though my shots were I'm holding the bow out in somewhere stupid, but I'm looking at the target, I was more accurate that way, which was interesting, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to hit this. This is stupid. And then I hit it, and I was like, oh, maybe is that because I was looking at it, or because I'm actually better than I thought I was?
That was one of the weirdest things that worked very well with the Luke Ross mod for the PC game, was that it was gaze-based, or your crosshair is kind of in the middle of your VR screen. And even without a reticle, being able to pick a particular piece of armor on any of the Horizon enemies and shoot a bow at that spot worked very well. So I was curious if the eye tracking was going to come into this, particularly in something that I saw in a YouTube creator called JBrat. His video was talking about the fact that the headset has the 4 cameras more forward-facing than the Quest, and you have the 2 controllers, and when you're pulling back, what it was doing to kind of lose the backward position of the bow. So I'm very interested if either of you had issues with bow lineup or any swimming in the bow during your demo.
I had issues with the bow lineup, ironically enough, in the boss battle. When they put me in the track, I felt like I was very limited, which was very weird. It was almost like I got placed into like an invisible track. That's the best way to describe it. And your movements feel very limited. Like you only can shoot up. Like if you try to shoot behind you, you can't. So I don't know what they did. If they created like some invisible restrictions in your movement style that kind of breaks how you're supposed to aim. But I didn't know that. I was not good at aiming during the boss battle. There's a section prior where you hit targets, and those I was like knocking them out the park.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm also wondering if they are using eye tracking to also help with your aim, then why we did terrible in the battles is because you're kind of looking at everything, right? You're not in Horizon. You want to shoot off usually particular parts, like you want to get the eye of this creature, but I'm looking at like kind of everything and looking at my hand, looking at my bow being drawn, and then like looking at the floor and looking at where the thing's going to attack me. So you're dodging. So I wonder if that was almost a disadvantage if it is using eye tracking for that as well, which it was
very weird. It's very odd that they introduced so many cool like traversal mechanics until you're in a boss battle where the traversal mechanics are supposed to highlight and bring value. That's what made Half-Life Alyx very fun, is that you're battling the same way you traverse. You're grabbing stuff, throwing it to the zombies, shooting them. Yeah, that would have been. There's barrels, you can interact with them. Like during the demo, like just little intricacies about VR. There was like a random little lock and a key, and you grab it, you open up the lock pick, and you can feel it in the haptics when you're trying to unlock it. Things that we have seen with VR and haptics before. It's just very fun to see them come to a home console in VR. But yeah, it almost feels like this feels more like a tech demo than a game. That's why that's why I let you answer the question, Adam. But for me, yes, I played Horizon. I love the story. I'm more of a story-based gamer anyways. But in terms of mechanics and enjoyment of the game, it's everything you've seen before. You played Half-Life Alyx. You have played this game before. The traversal is very lame, in my opinion. Yeah, it feels more like a dance battle than a fight, because you're going in circles around a monster. It's like, what? like let me run behind it or something. Yeah.
We had that another, and that's the lack of freedom of motion. If that's a core game mechanic, is probably going to break the fan in me who loves Horizon, because I love jumping, dodge rolling between 3-4 thundering gargantuan dinosaurs running around, sometimes trampling me. You know what I mean? And
it made me
to have that be limited, even if there's multiple enemies in combat, to be limited to a donut track to be encircling the target enemy feels a little bit more like Breath of the Wild combat was, right?
Not even. It feels much less. It feels like playing Breath of the Wild, and then all of a sudden the battle becomes a Pokemon battle.
Yeah, because everything's
that's
timed.
how it would feel.
You're just like timing your dodges. Yeah.
The best way to describe it, I guess, because we're talking about video games, it's when Final Fantasy 13 came out for the PlayStation 3. It was the first really big open world 3D AAA RPG, and they try to keep the same DNA of a turn-style RPG into the game. So now you have all these really cool flashy characters in 3D and high-def fidelity, and they're doing all of these cool attacks, but all you did was press X. So now you see this monster, this dragon in this world that you already know that you can traversal around, but now you're stuck into this circle dance with this monster. I'm like, wait a minute, why can't I hide behind that shed that I was just there a minute ago until the fight started? You know what I mean? Why can't I hide behind there, shoot arrows at the monster, run away from it? It almost feels like the graphics don't accommodate for the freedom that you're giving. It's really weird. Yep. It's a big disconnect, and
hopefully, like Skiva was mentioning, that he was able to run around freely, but then lock in for circular motion when clicking a button. Yeah. So maybe there is some sort of button that you can, because the tutorial kind of forced you into like, hey, you can go left and right. Yeah, so maybe there is another option to not be in that.
You want to tussle? Start running.
I don't want to be in dance mode. I mean, I think it's okay if I hadn't played Horizon games before, but after, playing Horizon games and knowing how fantastic the combat is in there, and then doing this weird timed.
They could have easily done a different story world. Yeah, if that was the goal.
And that's that's the part that I was going to say, right? Haven't done Luke Ross mod, haven't run full on Horizon, all the ducks rolls in that, playing first person most of the time, loving it. That fast pace didn't jog my stomach in a bad way. The environment was incredible. Jumping up a tall neck was great. Like, I really hope, and I heard this rumor, and this is what I'm going to say. I heard the rumor that they were going to redo Horizon Zero Dawn, and a lot of Redditors are saying, why would you touch our perfect game? You know, like, why would you reboot that? And I don't think they're going to reboot it. I think what's happened is, I think the dev studio has created Horizon Call of the Mountain for VR, the kind of Doom VFR of the Horizon catalog. And I think they've now looked at what's out there, and they're probably going to, now this is a big guess, okay, but I'm going to make this guess. I've made guesses on previous podcasts. I bet they got infatuated with VR, and they're like, can we do that to Horizon Zero Dawn and bring full flavor VR to that product?
Oh, man.
And yes, you can, but you have to redesign some core systems. And if they do that, yes, please. So I'm really looking forward to something.
That
Anyway,
sets
look,
scale.
I'm interested.
I'm excited.
I'm still excited. I'm not going to cancel my pre-order or anything silly like that. But before we move on to the next tech piece, I want to ask you both the same question. You got to play with a lot of different toys at CES. Do any of those other toys, if you had to pick one device for 2023, do any of those other toys take the mantle for you over PSVR2?
At least for me, no, because there was a lot of for industry stuff. And I also want to clarify by saying that I didn't get to try Vive's new headset. The Handy's another story. I don't know if that's safe.
I was actually going to say the Handy.
Safe for stream. We got to bring that in here. That's a mandate. Yeah.
But I mean, there was so much stuff there that wasn't meant for consumers. And so again, because I didn't get a chance, unfortunately, to try the XR Elite. I will say that I think the PlayStation VR is one that realistically, I would get over the other ones. Again, not having the XR Elite. The Lynx is cool too, but I don't have enough use case for mixed reality yet to justify getting a headset that does both, I think, currly. Yeah. But it's still cool. We will probably go into that in a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, we're going to move into that.
It's 100% exactly like Adam's. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but it's not meant for home consumers. The PlayStation VR2 is the benchmark. It really is. I haven't been excited over a VR headset since the Vive Pro. This is the Vive Pro for home use. It's really cool. I'm very happy that they stuck with the cable. If they would have gone all in one, they would have lost the graphical, the haptic fidelity, the visual fidelity. It's all there. I'm very
Sonics and haptics for me make it I just to have that in a Sony product, like I'm very excited, having not put my face into it yet. But hey, we've only got like 30 plus some days, so 22nd of February is not far away now. I'm very excited. I'm glad both of you have had a great time with it. Let's move on to some of the other bits and pieces. If your PSVR 2 oriented question didn't get answered, save it towards the end of the show. So that's our kind of PSVR 2 segment capped, bundled there. And we'll move on to the next bit. So I would say let's talk. The other one that's been creating a lot of buzz, surprisingly, after having been teased, not yet put on a turnstile that I've seen, is the VIVE XR Elite. I'm going to mention just a little bit about this because we haven't really talked about this. We just had it teased on previous podcasts. They tout it as an all-in-one XR standalone and tethered gaming headset. The price is just over $1,000 US, and so for Rowdy and I, it's about 1,500 Canadian. It's got detachable back straps for either glasses style frame, so you can wear this light headset on your face, or strap on an enclosed battery back strap, which I think is a really neat feature. And we did see, sadly, it's Bradley leaked this almost to a T just a couple of months ago. So VIVE XR Elite. Jose, you had a chance to go head into this, I understand.
Yes.
So tell us, what was it like?
It's a really cool device. There's nothing in terms of internals that you wouldn't expect to see, like in a Quest 2, same hardware internals. The lightweight form factor is what stands out. I would say this, I wasn't a fan of the comfort, even though it was very light. It definitely made me kind of get to that point and be like, oh man, maybe a really really light headset doesn't mean the most comfortable headset. It stays on the front very very kindly, like it's very light, feels very fluffy on your face, but the actual straps that go around your head. So the best way to describe it, it's like it makes me think of like lobster claws, because they're forced in, so you have to like stretch them out, and so like it kind of like grips onto your head, onto the side of your head, like really hard. It's actually, if you're using them light with the cable, you got like that thing like pressing onto your sides and then the cable running out. I hated that feeling. So personally,
is that a lot like if you have an overly sprung pair of headphones?
Yes.
Where the spring is too much and it's just uncomfortable.
But the problem is that the headphones at least have like a large surface to kind of like pressure against you, where the headset is using like, imagine just straight up your index fingers and just press them against your sides and just add slight pressure there where it doesn't hurt, but just leave it holding on to there for long term. Like after like a few minutes. Is it hard
plastic or grippy or what?
It is a very soft hard plastic. So it definitely feels like it's progging onto your sides. When you use the battery backup, where it kind of like feels more like a Quest Pro, that doesn't bother you anymore, but you got like a weird gap now that kind of like you can like actually put your hands in there, but you could probably slip in headphones under them. So there's like a weird gap. It kind of feels like a weird ring. The form factor is very bizarre. In terms of the lightweightness of it, it honestly, it feels very light. You don't feel it on your face that much. You can lean back. You can do a lot of relax or comfort based movements for VR that you normally are not meant to do. So you can see this now being applied for like yoga. I was thinking a lot about, I forgot the other one, the meditation VR app.
Trip
yoga.
Trip. Yeah. It made me think of Trip. And I was like, oh, this is the headset. This is probably what the Flow was meant to do. And the Flow couldn't really hit those marks. This is definitely the Flow 2. It's the comfort VR. I really hope they redesign whatever issue they created with those straps. I don't like it. I think that they were testing them with in the Asian market with, unfortunately, I don't know how to say this, but smaller body sizes, smaller head shapes,
smaller skull.
Yeah, smaller skulls, and I had a very, as a big-headed guy like me, I had a really tough time finding it comfortable. Until I tried the battery strap.
Yeah, it looks so sexy, right? I mean, Adam, you're nice. There. I know you really wanted to try it.
I was just saying, that's a problem I have with a lot of the like AR glasses styled when they don't have a head strap, is they're all too big for me. I can't, they like slip off because they don't grip my head that tightly. So on one hand, I'm like, ooh, I like that maybe I could actually, I kind of wish I tried it now. I might actually have something that wouldn't just slip off my head.
Because honestly. Yeah, dude, it might actually slip. Like it might actually look like really nice goggles for you, because you can tell, like, if my head was just slightly smaller, I feel like it would actually wrap nicely around my size of my head. And now I got like really cool goggles, and it feels like seamless. But unfortunately, it's so nice.
It's a cool kind of steampunk look. And actually, I was like, seeing how Vive is marketing this, it feels like they've finally corrected something that I know we've said on the podcast for a number of years, where they never seem to find the right market to target with their headsets. And this one, like, honestly, out of everything that's in the lineup of CES that you guys have had a chance to try, this is the one where I'm like, it's around the right price point. It's about $1,000, right, for a headset. I can use it tethered to my machine. I can use it if I was on a plane for a bit of entertainment type of thing. So it's very attractive to me, and just in terms of its kind of overall product design, it wouldn't do the same job as like PSVR2 is like my, go-to gaming VR headset, but as that kind of middle form product that does a bag of tricks, it feels like it could do something nice. But
the commercial space is going to love this. It's when you think of what I was thinking about was simulations, like space racing sims, treadmills, a lot of devices.
Why racing sims? Why are you saying that? Like in terms of,
it's so lightweight, right? If you're going to be, most people that do racing sims, they're doing, full on races with these, and they're already wearing a lot of haptic solutions on top of them. Now they got to wear like a PiMax or a very heavy headset for them to get the visual polarity. The XR2 has been optimized enough now where PC streaming is really, really good. I wish the fidelity, the resolution of the headsets were higher than they could be, but for that form factor, the 1200, it's perfect. It's a right good. It's the perfect initial commercial headset.
So do you think this would slot in for simmers then on the comfort side? If they were using it as a wired PC VR display, do you think this would replace, for example, the HP Reverb G2?
Yes. But depends, right? Because there's two types of G2 users. There's the high fidelity G2 users who they praise the lenses, and the ones that just praise the comfort levels. The ones that are going after the comfort levels, who are just using PC VR, and the computers are actually, upping everything, then yeah, you're not going to notice a difference. I think we reached the point where it's more about field of view now rather than graphics. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's
much of a muchness.
Yeah.
Well, it's good just to have a product that's supported by a company who's still doing VR. I mean, HP have kind of pulled their cards out, right? Yeah. So I would feel uncomfortable buying a G2 in 2023.
100%.
Right now, until they have another product, right?
HTC delivered. I had a really good conversation with Josh Naylor, the people at HTC, the energy from the operators themselves, the people there, the head of products, was very excited. Their business relationship manager, one of the first things he told me was, the reason I'm back with HTC is because of this headset. They're very excited of the XR Elite. They know that HTC has been waited on for a while, and he alluded like this headset's been ready for a while, that there were things behind the scenes that didn't allow them to get into market first. I haven't gotten that confirmed yet, but it makes a lot of sense. Qualcomm, the XR2 chipset, is in a very joyous and public prosperous marriage with Meta at the moment with the Quest. So maybe there is some truth and validity to it, but this they know what they have with this. I'm very excited.
One more question for you on this, because it's an XR headset and touted that way. Mm-hmm. In terms of pass through or like that aspect of the headset, did you get the chance to try that?
Yeah, I played around with mixed reality. I did a mixed reality demo. I got to see their menu navigation, which they were very excited about. They were like, "Hey, we adjusted our menus for mixed reality, so now you get to the home of your environment is your actual environment." And so they added a lot of cool features for that. I try, but yeah, man, nothing. It's very weird to say this, but we are finally at the point where VR has matured enough from a software perspective that only the high-end mixed reality devices, you're going to start noticing things like, if you compare like a LYNKX to any of these other headsets, the LYNKX will have the best pass-through mixed reality you can go for. Anything else is kind of the same. The winner of CES, if I were to be honest with you, was Reference Designs. You can tell that there's one design firm that's raking in all the big bucks from all these companies because they all feel the same. They all feel like the same polished version of Android, just difference, So it's very hard for me to be like wowed by differences in pass-through. It's all little software color corrections that's happening behind the scenes. So it's all the same, unfortunately.
Why don't we? That's probably a good pivot point. Unless Adam, you've got questions because you didn't get a chance to try it. I know you were flying out. You have any questions for Jose before we move on to the next one?
Nah, I'm just gonna continue being jealous. That's okay.
Okay. So let's move to LYNKX then, because this is not a headset that we've talked about recently, and maybe never with Crew V2. So the LYNKX R1 has an impressive color pass-through. It's a mixed reality headset. First kits have been going out the door as well, so that's very interesting for those who have backed this. Adam, you had a chance to go head on with this headset, and I've heard very interesting things about it. Tell us all about it.
Yes, I wish that my demo was more interesting than just solar system, but I guess it was a good demo to show sort of the seamless transition. I don't even know if that's the right word for it, from going into VR to AR. So you start off, they put you in VR, and you're basically, you have a demo where you can, use the hand tracking with UltraLeap to pick up planets and throw them or whatever. And then he tells you to step back. And at first I didn't understand. I was like, oh, am I going to step on somebody? He's like, no, go further. And it's because you go out of the VR space and it turns into like an orb. So now the orb that you were in VR is in AR, and so but you could still go in and take the planets out and move them around, now in your mixed reality space. And so it took me a moment for it to click, and I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. That because you were in it in VR, but you just take a couple steps back, and now you can just see it from a different perspective, but still interact with it pretty much the same. Again, I wish that
reminds me a lot of the original Vive HTC Vive demo, where you had those bubbles that you would then portal sphere for your face or whatever, but at a larger scale, and then you're popping out of the bubble, I suppose, walking out of it and pulling pieces out into your space. When you were walking around, was there any jitter, or was the tracking pretty
Not that I
good?
noticed. I mean, there was, obviously some hand tracking issues, but I think they had like five different headsets in the same space. But as far as the transition from VR to AR, it was smooth. Again, saying transition makes it sound like there's some kind of screen or effect, but no, it was completely smooth. I think that's what shocked me the most on how casual it was. I was like, oh, this is how it changed. You could step back into it, and now you're in VR again. And I did like thank God I love the lift up, the lenses. So then, because it's even when I'm talking to somebody in VR and looking at them, I feel weird that I'm not like looking at them with my eyes. So even just talking to eye contact. So I just like to flip it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me ask you some questions, and then okay, just go back in and I'll try this again. So that was nice. I want to try Half-Life Alyx on that thing. I'd be super curious. I know that you can, but I don't think they had that at the demos there.
Why specifically that headset and Alex? I'm curious. Like, what? Just the VR capability? Was the screen particularly nice?
Yeah, they are going to have separate, obviously, like light blockers as well, because that would be my biggest complaint for if you were just using it in VR. It's just like too much. I don't want to, see stuff on the side. But I do like the modularness of it. Like you can, and because it's so much of an open platform, you can kind of. Not me, because I'm not smart. I don't do developer stuff, but developers could do kind of what they want with it, and it's very nice, and it was very refreshing. And the people at the booth were all super nice, so I just had a really great experience with this headset.
Yeah, definitely the best color correction for pass through. And that, the segmented occlusion, the fact that you can that we're getting now where software we can literally obfuscate like the real world and then create virtual bubbles that you can go into. Like there was actually another demo. I forgot the name of the company. Ant, I believe. They were just showing a lot of augmented reality displays. And they had a demo where they were explaining how they were using similar to what Adam is explaining, but using hardware voltages. So they were actually like injecting electricity onto the lenses, which will create a pretty much like shadows onto the screen. So that the actual lens will go from AR pass-through mode to just straight up virtual. Just by turning
I've seen.
So there's a lot of cool stuff happening, and what Adam saw was through software where they're using pass-through at all times. They just obfuscated the real world with a digital layer where it looks like you're in a virtual space. So that it's all software trickery. So, that's what I was referring to. Like it's so cool.
I've seen that technology used most interestingly in what was like a business hotel room. That I hope you're not there with a colleague or something, because there was a switch on the wall that turned one of the walls. I'm not joking. One of the walls of the shower went opaque to completely translucent. Yeah. So that was a pretty nifty feature. I was like, "What's this do?" And it was like all of a sudden,
it's so rad.
Oh my!
Yeah,
but yeah, doing that for AR to MR transitions is a really cool trick. I hadn't considered that would be.
What worried me?
That's cool. And you said that was Ant?
Ant was showing the displays, but getting back to LYNKX, with their demos. See, the problem with the LYNKX that worries me is that the LYNKX is such a great headset, but yeah, it doesn't have for me as somebody who buys a lot of tech. It's very hard to recommend when not justifying it. It's just understanding their long-term goals, right? Mm-hmm. Like the lenses manufacturer. For these headsets, like the actual person behind the lenses, yes, he created them, but the actual firm itself got bought out. So everybody I talked to in the industry behind the scenes, they're going like, oh yeah, but the creator can do it again. I'm like, yeah, but the creator will have to create the supply chain again, the metrics to recreate it. It's not as easy as redoing the wheel a second time, you know? So it worries me what the future of Lynx is. I would love to see them make an announcement and announce a third headset that has I don't care, tell me 2027, but if you tell me that you have a commitment to make another headset, I will show some support. But right now they're only focusing on the two headsets that we know will release. I want to know what the long-term support will look like when the biggest company that's about to enter the race bought your entire supply chain out. What's the value of the Lynx at the moment?
I can see that.
Yeah.
2027 is just
around
the corner.
Give me something.
That was the LYNKX R1.
Yeah.
Very good. There were a few others. Now, just note we are past the 2-hour time there. So, not that we cut the podcast at 2 hours, but we'll try to go a little bit quicker through the next few bits that we tried. Why don't we hop over to another headset with similar capabilities, the MagicLeap, a 260-gram headset, which has, it's an interesting form factor because it's got this heavy puck that does the processing on your hip. So it's like battery and processing cable to the headset. The headset's rather light, as I said, 260 grams only. MagicLeap 2. I've tried the first one, but MagicLeap 2. How was that?
Did you try it, Adam?
I did. Again, it was one of those where I think the hardware was cool. I did like that they had that little pack. They had for me, it was on a shoulder strap, but it has a clip in it. So you ideally would put it like on a belt loop or pants pocket. But like the only thing they showed me was just like, here's a car in the space and you can change the colors. And it's like, okay, you can kind of do that on a lot of things now. So it was comfortable, at least. Like I said, because it has sort of that strap in the back, I didn't have any issues with it slipping off. Granted, I wouldn't want to like whip my head around too much with it. Still felt a little shaky, but yeah, to me it was very meh, just because I personally don't have a use case for this, so it wasn't something that I was terribly excited for or that I hadn't felt like I'd seen before. I was more interested in just the controllers and the pack that had like the CPU in it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, they felt very.
I've heard it was quite heavy on the belt. But
I had a shoulder.
What was your impression?
It was a shoulder strap for me. I wouldn't try it on a belt because I wear lady clothes, so I probably would drag down most of what I have, and I also wear dresses, so I don't think it would be something I could do. But I mean, otherwise, as someone who uses purses occasionally, it wasn't very heavy if you consider it like the weight of like a light woman's purse, I suppose.
I use purses that often myself.
That's what I had, like a little purse going on. And it's such a bummer, right? When you think of MagicLeap, they're one of the OGs in the space, and now they're nothing but a glorified, we can do this too, guys. Look at us, pay attention. Like the entire conversation at CES, this is actually, ironically enough, their first CES. And I was talking to them,
Really?
I'm just so angry at that company. Like, I really am.
Me too.
Like, this is a company that back in the day was touted to be, the next Apple. No joke.
Yep,
people were saying, there were people taking salary cuts just to go and work at this company because they'd be working on the next forefront of the new technology. They soaked up
had it.
so much funding. They took away so much funding from other people working in this field. And what did they do with it? They showed was it a crappy little elephant on a table, and that was
a little demo.
Yeah, like and that was like their big demo. They fooled investors, in my opinion. They really left like a sour taste in my mouth that I can't really anything they come up now with. Even though their demos, the videos, they look amazing. It's a marketing trick for me, and they're gonna have to really step it up and show something really different for me to pull me towards their end ever again.
I agree. I agree with your sentiment, but from a different perspective. I did their demo when they were doing the early interviews in 2014. I did see their tech. I believed in their tech. The problem was that they kept their cards too close to their chest. They were refusing to show people except investors. So in order for you to see the technology and believe in it, you had to pay a lot of money. And that pissed off a lot of investors until look what happened to the industry. A lot of companies went like, oh, we can do this better. And they took off with the tech and it became, oh, we invented it first. But what's the point of yelling to the clouds that you did it first? Like, get something to the market. And that's what the MagicLeap 2 is. The MagicLeap 2 feels non-impressive, even though it truly is. It does mixed reality very well. The spatial anchoring is really good. The fact that they've been doing mixed reality before a lot of people goes to show their devotion. They're in a very good form factor space now. The puck system I absolutely hate, but I also believe in what you can do with it, right? Imagine if you can add like co-spatial anchors, then now all of these pucks are talking to each other, and now you're creating, multiplayer AR environment or things like that, but they're not going into any of that. Or maybe they are, but they're keeping it too close to their chest. They don't understand that the biggest investor in the technology are the fans, are the people that are inspired by it. So if you're not inspired,
that is so well said, Jose. That is very, very well said. I love that statement because it's something that I heard recently where someone said, no one's going to run off with your idea. It's like, you're building your idea, you're invested in it, get the wind into your sails right behind it. And it sounds like they've been ignoring that for several years. And need to learn
it broke my heart when I was talking to the demo guy. He was like, this is our first CES. And I'm like, what? Like, I've seen you guys since 2014. What do you mean it's your first CES? What were you guys showing? So it's just very, very unorthodox thinking, but I hope they correct it because they have some cool stuff there.
Well, I will never look at a whale the same way ever
or an
again.
Elephant.
Thank you, MagicLeap. Yeah, I never got to see that. I need to see that demo myself. So with a similar slant, I'm going to go for PiMax as our next jump. So both the Crystal and the Portal were on show. And again, just reminding us of the Kickstarter behind that tech and it potentially shipping in January and all of this. I was very cynical about the whole thing. And I've heard a couple of decent reports come back. So two things. The Crystal is actually, despite its look, it's a standalone headset that can also tether to a PC. It's 2880 per eye. And the FOV, depending on the lenses set that you pick, is somewhere between 110 and 125. So again, still that kind of wide field of view that PiMax is known for. Whether they cheat to get there or not is another question. You've gone face first in this as well. Adam, would you let me know your thoughts on that? I'm really curious.
Okay, I'll go with Crystal first, just because contradictory to most experiences, I did not have a good experience, but it also may have been just the people that were demoing it to me because their booth was always kind of chaotic. And so I came in a little earlier to see if I could get my appointment done with. And basically the guy just gave me the headset to put on. And then he walked away. So I had to figure out how to put the headset on. And I mean, I could have figured out, but I feel uncomfortable touching hardware that's like I've never put on my face before. Like I want to make sure it fits right. And then the controllers were still kind of plugged into their computer. So I had to sort of wait for someone to find them for me. Then another guy came back and basically put the controllers in the wrong hands for me because I could feel it. The contour wasn't right. I unfortunately was put into air car, which I've been told that for the Crystal, things look better when it's close up. Everything was blurry for me. I asked the guy how to adjust the IPD, which he did know. That was probably the only thing he knew. And it only went down to me for like 66, and I'm like 60. So I could not get a clear image on this thing. And asking I don't know if I heard there were some volunteers there, so maybe I unfortunately got a volunteer, but I was trying to ask him some basic questions and he just wasn't really sure. So eventually I just had to do one of those sad, okay, well, thank you, and take the headset off and then walk away. So
So not the best experience on
No.
that one. And Jose, did you get a chance to try
I
it?
tried both actually. I tried the Crystal and the Portal. They have heard a few of my complaints about PiMax, so they actually I met some people over at PiMax. Hi guys. They definitely wanted me.
It's the best.
They actually wanted me to really try the Crystal. They it was a very white glove demo. I'm sorry that you went through that, Adam. They did tell me that they had volunteers. They were having some staffing issues, but yeah, I got to get some really cool time with the Crystal. I loved the visuals, the displays that they're using are pretty nice. The comfort of the headset itself are nice. I didn't like anything else but that. The tracking was not great. The actual software interface was kind of warped. I did meet some very smart people behind the scenes who are tackling that for PiMax. I think they're very confident. I don't know how much I can talk about that. I don't want to burn any bridges, but maybe. But
they have
they're
lacked confidence.
exactly.
I would
So
say.
they were
That's the number one
definitely
thing. They're very
yeah
confident.
they were there to try to build as much confidence as possible in their device. They showed me a device that's very tight-lipped at the moment. Hopefully, we can talk about it soon. They're committed. I would have to
Another
say this.
device.
If there's one thing that I could say about PiMax that I could say confidently now is that I think there's love for XR there. There's genuine love for XR. There's genuine love for hardware. I think what's happening is that they're now realizing that their ambitions might be too high to what can be technically done, and they're now learning their lessons. If they manage to fix the firmware on the Crystal, if they manage to fix tracking to a decent standpoint, they might have something on their hands. Until we get that demo, until we get an all-in-one running and we can see it. The Portal, why would you even display this thing? Why would you even put it on the floor? It doesn't work.
It's tactile. Like people like looking at things that look like a Switch. If they're not VR, they're like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, cool! You can take the magnetic things and then you can put them on a VR controller." So it's like interesting to look at for non-VR people.
For sure, but I would agree with you if it worked, if the software worked. Like literally, they had a one with Android crashing every time on display. It was like, what are you doing? Like, please fix this. Like, what's going on? Like, it's very weird. How they're kind of operating, but they do love the tech. The displays look really nice. It looks like they have the right hardware, but now it's the software, which is super bizarre. It's like, get the software first, guys. Shout out to everybody over there at PiMax. Thank you for at least showing me some love. that was really cool though.
Did you get to meet the sales
yes,
guy?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
How was he in person?
He actually was a really cool dude. I definitely have some admiration for the ponytail. The guy's really cool, man. Like, I love the people there. It's just there is an ambition versus execution issue. I think that's what's happening, and it sucks, right? Because that's what tech companies go after, and if a tech company can't execute that, then you're kind of unfortunately failing at your core ethos, right? If you can execute or deliver. So I would say, like, that's exactly what I told them. I was like, guys, just focus on one headset. Just do one headset.
Did they comment to you about the shipping, like for backers and stuff? Because I'm just curious for people who have backed.
The person that I was talking
to
asked that I refer to him as a volunteer. I don't think he was. They're not optimistic about shipping anything. None of the all-in-one. Yeah. I hate talking. I don't want to be the person to talk about this stuff because it might be like exclusive, but their all-in-one firmware is completely broken. It's not usable. They're actually working with third-party development teams that do third-party handheld operating systems on Android in order to see if they can get something working, at least get the Portal out of the door. It's currently not working. Their kernels are not working. The firmware, the tracking, it's a mess from a software perspective. And it looks like they're bringing in people. They flew in a lot of people for CES to come and talk to them and see what they can do with the hardware. I don't know if I don't see this releasing at the time frame that they said it will.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's not a surprise to us if that's the case. Adam, any final comments on that with your time with the Portal, for example?
Not really. The Portal is just weird. It's a strange thing. The only thing I might like about it are the fact that you can use their motion controllers for flat screen games, and so I thought that, but it's not like you could demo any of that there. So it's just more of like, this is what they told you, but does it work? I'm not sure.
I made a joke about the Portal being a very powerful home theater like emulation device, and the guy went like, "Shh, we know." So they kind of want this to be that. They want flat screen gaming to take off on this. They don't want this to be a VR headset. This is a cinema little Android device that
why did they just do
has
that?
value.
Like they could have just cut
they don't
out
have a firmware.
I don't know.
They probably had a demo. Working. My theory is that they had a demo working that was probably running like official Android, and they had like the Google Store and all of that stuff, and they got worried of somebody getting that demo and being like, oh, it comes with the Google Store, and now they got to pay licenses and royalties. That's what I'm thinking. That they probably because it's there's a weird disconnect there between software and hardware, which I'd never seen in a tech company before, but here we are.
So there's another player out of like a sixth highlight from CES that was really curious about. They reached out to me, the podcast. They seem to be going everywhere. They're like, everybody, we've got news, new headset coming. And this is AjnaXR, the AjnaXR by AjnaLens. And I don't know very much about this. I thought for those of you who've gone face first with it, tell us about, I think it's an Indian company.
That's what I liked. Go ahead, Adam.
They're not a consumer-based headset, though. They're more marketing, education, or like job site. I will say when I tried the headset, it was very uncomfortable. The face, whatever face interface they use is very tight, even for like female face, and it wasn't very comfortable. And the demos they were showing, something I thought was interesting is they can take a on-the-job site peripheral. So in the demo they had like a spray paint gun, attach their controller to it. So you can basically use the spray paint gun like a real one as you would on the job, for example. So I'd be interested to see kind of what other tools they can actually bring into VR. So you're using the actual tool versus a controller emulating a tool, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's more, they're looking to like build their own platform, and mostly in education and work training. But I think they're also involved in NFTs, which I just wanted to get that out there just in case. But
it's you can tell that it's the most impressive thing about AjnaXR is that it's an Indian company. They're targeting third world countries. They're definitely they understand the value of XR, they understand the value of training and accessibility. So they know that the biggest hurdle into creating simulation training is the lack of really good simulation developers. By them creating hardware solutions like peripherals, like the one that Adam mentioned, the nozzle peripheral, they make it easier for developers to just tap in these APIs and say, hey, this is the nozzle attachment, instead of creating like a seamless XR one-to-one recreation, which is kind of the way that a lot of training simulations are going towards. This kind of creates a half-step measure that allows them to do it from a cost savings perspective. And once again, they got the supply chain down in India. It's very exciting to see XR kind of hitting the third world markets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's a new headset we've got, and there were three other little bits that I saw that I thought are worth just a quick shout out. Let me know if you got a chance to demo them. First one was very interesting. Mutalk's vocal suppressor in a StenoMask form is if you live in a small apartment block in Japan and you're having your VR session and chatting away to your VR chat buddies, maybe you don't want the high-strung businessman who lives next door to hear your full conversation. So there's this device that goes over your mouth to help. The feed bag, yes, it does look like a horse feed bag. For VR, and the device wasn't cheap either. It's like $200, I think. So that was announced alongside CES. and I thought that was interesting. Was that on the show floor at all, or was that just? Did either of you see that?
I mean, there was a lot. I didn't happen to see it in the like VR metaverse section, so I'm not sure.
Right.
But I think some people did get to demo it, so maybe they were doing it, and either I missed it or
I think
they were in some
Shiftall
strange
had a
section.
demo that. Yeah, I think the Shiftall booth had them. I didn't try it. It didn't look fun. It didn't look inviting. They had a guy demoing it. He had his whole entire mouse strapped and all of the haptics on it. It was like, bro, like this doesn't look enticing at all. Like, it's like
is this from Saw? Where is this from?
Unhygienic, no? Like
I don't know if I'd want to try it at
so
a
much
convention.
fluid to come out of your mouth when you're talking. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, didn't we just have COVID? Like, why are we? Why is this product allowed?
I'm good.
I don't know. Yeah, that one. And then the other one I saw, which was from, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the dev team because I know them, but the Holoride, right, which was this partnership for basically in-car entertainment with Pixel Ripped and a Pixel Ripped build for the VIVE Holoride, I think. Those combining forces was kind of interesting. What I was curious about was with your experiences with Vive's new equipment, and just curious if Holoride is going to use the new Elite, the new XR Elite, or is it still going to use? I forget the name of the old one. Flow.
They're going to move over to the XR Elite. The software for Holoride is actually device agnostic. They actually there's no other devices that currently can use it. But that was a very interesting quip that he wanted me to know. He was like, "Oh well, let me make sure you know this. This is not a HTC product. This is device agnostic. It's just the Elite is the first headset that can kind of accommodate with this very well. They are talking to people at Meta. They wanted me to know that. They also mentioned a collaboration with Sony's new flagship cars with Hyundai, or Honda, I think it's Honda, which are the Afeela car line." And they mentioned XR.
Oh, yeah. Afeela, the first car. Yeah. There's so many things about that I just have to chuckle at. Yeah. But yes, the Afeela, the car that's gone emo. And
it's feeling a lot of
into
things.
The future.
But that was the cool part is that they mentioned that the Holoride system is meant for as many headsets as possible.
That's good. But the only thing for me is, I mean, maybe with a plane, I've done enough toying with headsets in the air that I would say that in domestic travel, in ground travel, taxis, even family cars, something, I still don't feel like I've got enough awareness of my surroundings if I put a VR headset on in that. I feel like it's dangerous.
I did not like the demo.
I'm not comfortable with that.
I actually did the car. I did the Holoride demo at CES.
Yes,
they had a Tesla. They went from one wing of the Venetian all the way up to the west. So they had like a little theme park. It was like a hyperloop, I think it was, and they had the Holorides there. And one of the things, it was exactly that. It was a sensory overload that I did not like. It's the same feeling that I had with a virtual reality actual roller coaster. Is that when you're in a roller coaster, you know that you're actually physically moving, so you don't know what's in front of you. So even if though you're visually seeing something, your body keeps kind of telling you, hey, this is not real, that what you're seeing, and you have this weird sixth sense activated at all times. And the Holoride does that. They did a lot of cool things to kind of make you feel safe at ease, knowing that there's a building to your left, because the Holoride game maps an actual like structure in the virtual world and the guy tells you, oh, every single mountain you see is an actual building. So you know if there's a building there, but it's still bizarre. It makes you want to like lift the headset up just to make sure that you're safe. Like I did it a few times where like the guy that was giving me the demo, amazing energy, don't get me wrong, but I kept just like with my peripheral eye, is he taking a picture of me for the demo? Like, is he doing something that I'm not aware of? It's a weird energy that it creates by being secluded in a moving vehicle that I don't think people will adopt.
Where am I going?
I barely trust Uber drivers without having a VR headset on, let alone having one on. Then Jesus Christ.
And that's what they mentioned.
Well,
they
that's the other
mentioned
side.
Uber rides. They mentioned luxury travel, and I did not like any of it. I did not, to be honest. It sucks because I loved it. I really did. I actually enjoyed the tracking. I loved the visuals. I got immersed, but there's this weird thought process that's running alongside your mind. It's like,
Paranoia.
am I going to get murdered? Am I going to? What if the driver is paying attention to what I'm doing? Like he's laughing at me, enjoying this headset. And he gets into an accident. Like just weird thoughts that go through your head when you're that I never thought I would be experiencing.
Because you're just I wouldn't even imagine little bumps in the road would make me like, what's going on? Like what's happening? Like.
You're literally on a tightrope,
or slightly too much braking. You're like anything is going to pull you out.
It's like an immersion tightrope that you're there at all times. Like it doesn't get better. It's so weird. You're always on that tightrope.
I like your metaphors, Jose. I really do. Oh my god! None of this stuff is going to fall out of my head after this podcast. All right, so that was Mutak's vocal suppressor, Holoride, and Pixel Ripped. The third thing, which is neat, seeing Razer come into the game, is they announced a strap. Looks very familiar to the original cloth strap of the Vive for HTC, the original HTC Vive for Quest 2. So seems a little bit late in the game to come into Quest 2 when Quest 3 is around the corner in 2023. But hey, Razer's come into the game. Are any of you Razer fans, like Razer laptops, Razer mouse?
Not really, but I like this one because it looks like I could use my ponytail through it.
That's what I was gonna say. Oh my gosh, Razer, whoever designed that, like you said, it's like, why would they come so late into the game? They knew that the long hair, the female gamers, people like me that love to just let their hair uncontrollable when in VR, they paid attention. Like they use the material, the soft material inside the headset. It sucks because everybody was talking about that's like, oh, this is gonna get nasty after a few sessions, but it's removable, it's washable. It doesn't rip your hair off. Like I actually they let me try it. They had them on their display, and I told them, I was like,
you got to demo it. That's
I told
great.
Him, dude, I have long hair.
Looks
like
super comfortable.
And the guy was like, yeah, we'll let you try it. So I got to try it. I pulled it off my head. It doesn't, because it's fabric, right? So it's kind of like rubbing against your hair. It's not actually pulling it or tugging it behind the latches, which is what I love the most. So I'm super psyched to just put a ponytail and play some VR. It's super dope.
I think this is like,
I didn't catch the price point on.
I don't think this makes a lot of sense anymore to have now. The only positive I take from this is that they probably will be able to release one faster for when the Quest 3 comes out. They've iterated the design now. They know what works, so they probably just need to modify it for the next headset. But I don't think that this will be a success considering it's so late.
Yeah, it's another option. There are a lot of like second market headsets. So like Quest 2s will get sold off and then it'll be someone's first VR headset. And
the reference,
it's good to see something different.
That's exactly what I don't want to say that. I don't want to place that bet yet because I might look dumb, but I would be shocked if like the Quest 3, I feel like the Quest 3 might end up getting revised one more time. I feel like the XR2 chipset is proving that it still has way more life in it than we thought, and it's actually really cool. I might think I'm starting to think, man, maybe the Quest 3 might have an XR2 with a higher clock speed, but it might just be the same exact chipset because there's so much happening right now. I feel like the Quest 2 has maybe like a good 4 years of VR left in it.
I agree with that. However, considering
it's scary to think about, but
just considering the marketing, I think that it makes more sense for them to release a new headset, considering PlayStation VR2 is coming out. I think they want to keep on being the newest headset on the market, and with newest, they therefore want to associate with like the newest tech, even though it isn't always the case. But I think that they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna reiterate that once again. I think they want to bring that out as soon as they can after that PSVR2.
I hope so, because it would be nice. But man, there's so much. Every single headset that you mentioned that we talked about, they all run the same chipset, same exact environment, the same exact lenses. It's like, okay, like I want to meet the firm that's designing these for these people, because I guarantee you it's a team of 4 probably. It's crazy. It feels like the same DNA in all of these headsets. So shout out to whoever has this reference design patents, man. That's the person I want to talk to.
Future podcast.
That's the guy who wants
FReality is releasing a headset. No.
Let's do it. XR2, Fresnel lenses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Same specs, copy paste.
Gaming science teacher made the great comment that it could be good for seated or reclining experiences because no other soft strap has that than the stock. So, I mean, like having the back of your skull be able to lean back on something on a plane, in a recliner, all that kind of stuff is like, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that. And like, even though I know the original Quest 2 head strap is soft and a lot of people don't like it, I swap in and out of that thing more often than I probably readily admit, because lying in bed with it, you know, wanting to watch my kids and at the same time lean back on my couch type of thing is super helpful for that. I would never do that for like 2-3 hours. So the Elite strap or any other third party is a necessity, I think. But anyway, that's mostly CES wrapped up. Any final bits or fun stories you guys have? I know we're at 2.5 hours here, but I'll let you go. One thing each if you've got something else.
I think Adam will agree with me, and this is probably Adam will add on to this. But I would say shout out to the Impact Reality Upload VR party that they threw at CES. It was really cool for them to bring in so many titans in the VR industry together into this video game bar. I was able to throw it down with Adam on original Mario Bros, the arcade system. So it was just really rad to Palmer Lucky was there. Just everybody who was everybody in the VR space was there, which was low-key terrifying in a really cool way. So shout out to them. That was definitely my highlight of CES, is seeing the VR industry. The VR industry felt like a real tech industry for the first time for me. It really felt mature. It felt nothing like bright-eyed. Oh my God, look at all this cool stuff. It actually felt like, oh, cool. The same of everything we know and love. I felt a sense of, I don't want to call it jadedness, but like just healthy expectations being met. And that's really good for an industry, because now it's kind of like up to the developers, the creators. Everybody has the same hardware. I keep making jokes about it, but that's a really good thing. We have standardization in the space. Now it's time for people to I want to lasso a headset over my head. Somebody make a game where I can do that.
Please don't. Please don't.
New kind of headset tracking.
And Adam, what about you?
Shout out to Handy. This is kind of a more entertaining thing for me. Boy. I'll keep it PG and very quick. Don't worry. But they had some male accessories on CES, and this one in specifically can actually be synced with VR. So it is VR related. It's not just like, haha, Adam found something inappropriate and wants to bring it up. It is kind of interesting, although, you know, it's the way it's based on the forum. I'll never be able to use them like this. But interestingly enough, they had demos. They had demos of this at CES, and originally it was just an empty chair with Clorox wipes and a headset. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this, what is the demo like for this? But luckily, Genghis actually did try it. And what happens is they put like, you know, those head massaging things that have the little wires come out and the bulbs on the end.
Orgasmatron or whatever it's called.
But they use it on your knee. So they're not actually attaching this thing to you in public at CES.
I was about to say, like, are people really like trying this out there on the show floor? Pants down.
No, they're decent enough to give you privacy. They put you in a little room with like a little table.
No, the demos I saw, they were just sitting. I mean, they're behind the, the booth, but it's
the knee, right?
It's going onto your knee. Yeah, it's okay. Like so. What they see in the headset is basically like they said some Russian woman giving you a knee massage. So her motions are going in time to the massage. So, you know, I imagine then for the actual application of this, there's similar. I didn't ask too many questions because, you know, I didn't want to stick around for too long. But yeah, so that was my fun CES experience.
Wow. Wow. You know, if I learned anything from VR, those dating sims that Rowdy and I used to go into, there was an Indian gentleman named Magic, and he used to talk about the erogenous zone of the knee and all this kind of stuff. And so you're just pulling me back to that. But now that they've got, as you said,
Magic's work is not done yet.
Magic's work is clearly not done yet.
I'm just asking
He's the lead investor in Handy.
Just asking for a friend, but how much did it come? Like price?
Was that a pun?
Yeah, of course it was.
I thought.
I was waiting.
And how much
I don't
did it
remember. I don't remember the price, but I do know that they are working on eventually making a female version. So,
maybe you should ask your
ladies.
husband, right? He'll probably know the price.
So halfway through and ask you to pay for the subscription. It's like,
like not just being giggly schoolgirls about this, which I do love being, but I do think that there is a real application for this for couples who are across the planet. And
for sure.
It's called teledildonics, right?
Well,
it's like his and hers stuff, or hers and hers stuff, or whatever you want in configuration.
That's the cool part, because I was talking to the guys demoing this, and he told me the access, the control is not just to one. Like, they actually have a system that comes with the handy, like actual like cam models can actually control thousands of these at once.
Oh, that's right.
So they have.
That's right.
Yeah,
I heard that.
So they have a, if you decide to dwell into that and search them up, they have a very powerful case study where they have a model, that same one, the same Russian model in the video. She is talking about the case study where she controlled, I think it was 5,000 end users at once, and the whole experience is on video. It's censored. It's definitely.
I have the power.
Yeah. But yeah. It's incredible what you can do with technology, and that's what I'm saying.
It's like interesting.
Like
yeah,
fantasy.
They say if you reach just one, but in this case, 500 or 5,000.
You're like Sword Art Online. If you remove it, you die.
Yeah.
I'll leave that.
I just don't want to be support, right? I don't want to be the support team who has to support the users who have problems with the unit. None of that. Anyway, thank you, Adam, for doing this for science. I appreciate that. That's always good to bring the saucy stuff here back to the podcast.
You're very welcome.
We are FReality after all. So with that, why don't we put the lid finally on CES? If you do have questions that we weren't able to answer, I'd encourage you, if you're watching the video back later or whatever, drop them in the comments. We'll try to make sure you get seen to, and either Jose or Adam, responded back to you as well. So thanks for that. Releases time. Jose had a holiday break, and so have you, but it's back to business, and that means it's time for games. What have we got to play, and what's the best of the games that are coming out soon, Jose?
All right. So the first one I have listed here is Blink and the Vacuum of Space, releasing January 17th, about $9.99 USD. That's about £8. It reminds me a lot of Rec Room. And not Rec Room, sorry. What's the other one with the office environment? I'm thinking
Alt Space?
Not Alt Space. No, the mini games that you can you're in a ragdoll environment and you're like in an office and you can make stuff. It's like one of the oldest VR games.
Job Simulator.
Job Simulator, geez.
Oh.
Yeah, so it gives me a lot of Job Simulator vibes, but I can describe it as Job Simulator in Papers, Please. Which is, there's like a TSA component with robots there that you can like.
Papers, Please.
It's very fun. So definitely check that out. It's out in January 17th. It's a PC VR game. I believe Steam. The next one I have listed here is the Great Ocean VR, which made me very excited. It reminds me a lot of Subnautica, but where Subnautica failed, in my opinion, was like bringing in like the realism of the ocean. I feel like the Great Ocean VR kind of went after that, where you're actually looking at real sea life animals. I don't know if they actually scanned the animals, but there's like a weird sense of realism there that made me want to check it out. That's about $2 USD. That's about £3. It is on the Quest 2 also. And the third one I have is Aimtropolis, which I'm very excited about. Comes out June 25th. It is free. I believe it's out on the Quest also through SideQuest. Not sure if I saw a link for it. Yep. So it is available. It's also awesome. But the cool thing about Aimtropolis is that they kind of made a gag out of every single rail shooter there is in VR and decided to just make one ultimate rail shooter, and it just reskins the mechanics into, now you're in the Western, but now you're in space, now you're against a zombie horde. So they decided to kind of mock all of these same we can do it too kind of games, and just turned it into one. And so the story changes the environment every time. It's called Aimtropolis. Definitely an absolute highlight. It's one that I'm actually after this going to play some more, and it's free, which is insane. So yeah, check it out, Aimtropolis VR.
I like
That's
it.
all I got this week.
Nice. Cool. Can you just give us a recap of the titles in case people want to?
Yeah, so one more time. I mentioned at the very top was Blink, BLINNK, and the Vacuum of Space. Second one, The Great Ocean VR. And third, Aimtropolis VR.
Nice variety, Jose. I like those. I'm actually keen on those now. So that third one is, did you say a side quest title or is it also
I believe
PCVR?
it's a PCVR. I believe it's on SideQuest. I'll post the link on after the tweet for FReality and on the YouTube, just to make sure. I definitely want to start doing that. So the games I listed, you'll probably find little links or tidbits on the description on the YouTube.
Can I add
good.
one more? There's also
Fire away.
Primal Hunt, which is coming out on the 19th, which I'm super excited about because I love dinosaurs. So, and even if it means shooting them, that's okay. I will still love them when I shoot them, and then I'll apologize and then hang.
Isn't one of the designers of Primal Hunt worked on their original
for Turok?
Yes.
Turok.
Oh, that's so rad. When I read that, I was like, I think you mentioned it, Adam, actually. That actually made me very interested because I love Turok. And I've been wanting a Dino Crisis in VR for so long, and nobody has delivered, and it makes me so angry. If somebody is listening, please give us Dino Crisis in VR.
I think the closest was like Island 365.
Mm-hmm. Island 365.
What I remember.
That's
an old one.
I would kick dinosaurs with my full body trackers. That was kind of fun, I guess.
Oh yeah, wasn't it like one of the first to integrate feet tracking?
Yeah,
if not the first.
The cat VRs too. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, it's funny, Adam, that I don't know if you know, Rowdy's also a fan of dinos. Big fan of dinos.
Look this one up then, because I haven't tried.
We nearly lost him to Robinson the Journey some years ago.
Oh, dude. Oh man, and Rowdy, you were in Miami, and so you didn't see that Jurassic Park had a live tour. And they were in Miami while you were there.
Indeed, I know.
I should have mentioned that.
Wait, what does that mean? Jurassic Park had a live tour. What
they have a live
actual dinosaurs.
They have a live presentation show where they have giant animatronics and giant dinosaurs, and they're reenacting like dinosaur training. It's like a circus, but they're dinosaur animatronics.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I just know I'd be very nervous if they hand you one of those giant flashlights, like as you walk in. I'm not touching that thing.
Oh, amen.
No, I know where this is going. I'm not getting in that Jeep. No way. All right. Well, that's our games for this coming fortnight. Thank you very much, Jose. Chat, we're almost done here. If you want to shout out, now's your chance. Drop it in chat. I will take very few questions because we've run even further, and there's no way I'm going longer than the last episode. So here you go. I'm going to run down the show times for you. FReality crew, this fine cast of 4 stream dead or alive every other Saturday on YouTube and on Twitch. We are live and broadcasting from 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. Are you busy doing your hair at the time? Well, don't let Adam catch you off guard. We've got the audio-only replay over at Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Subscribe for more. Like it if you did. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another one of these mega VR potlucks. Adam, Browdy, chat, what do we got? Anything?
I think a lot of people are going to be buying the Handy, it looks like. So,
yeah.
Judgment here.
It seems
Let's
like we
sync
have
them together, guys. VR session.
It seems like we have a mainly male audience. Like, I didn't know that, but like.
Send me the access to control them.
It's an FReality circle.
You all make me so proud every episode.
We should start an FReality OnlyFans.
We should synchronize it with the podcast. And we'll know if people are enjoying it. We'll get feedback if people are enjoying the podcast.
Well, this is FReality Podcast, the podcast that keeps you thinking, what the heck did he just say? All right, my fellow VR nutters, let's go kidnap Sadly It's Bradley and smother him in butter. And until next time, take care of yourselves.
Bye-bye.